At this moment, Han Fei felt that he had found a way to become stronger again. So he immediately dove quickly. Of course, this rapid diving speed was actually not very fast, because it was quite difficult to break through the power of the divine source. Previously, it was easily billions of kilometers, but now it was only dozens of meters. 2 hours later, Han Fei only dove about 200 kilometers. Judging from the size of the dragon pool he saw outside, its diameter was probably nearly 10 million kilometers. If he kept sneaking at this speed, it would take him 7 or 8 years to reach the real core of the dragon pool. Han Fei was lost for words. Reaching the terminal alone would take him 7 or 8 years? He tried his best to dive at full speed. 2 hours later, Han Fei didn't know whether to laugh or cry. This divine source didn't seem to be something that could be broken by strength alone. Every time he wanted to speed up and dive quickly, the flow of essence blood in his body accelerated, his bloodline trembled, and even his spiritual heritage trembled slightly. Therefore, after trying once, Han Fei's diving speed was still about 200 kilometers per hour. This kind of diving was very boring. The pain of the body and soul couldn't be compared to the hellfire, so Han Fei could only keep diving. Han Fei said, "Emperor Sparrow, how fast can you dive?" The Emperor Sparrow, "Just like you." Han Fei looked at Little Black and Little White. "What about you?" Little White said, "The same." Han Fei couldn't help but wonder, this is interesting. This diving speed has nothing to do with strength. Half a year later, Han Fei, who was still diving, found that his bloodline level had increased by 36 places on the Infinite Ocean list, reaching the 3,280th place. However, if this state lasted for hundreds of years, it wouldn't be bad. Unfortunately, he couldn't stay here for very long. Besides, as he dove deeper and deeper, Han Fei felt that the pressure in all aspects was getting stronger. Of course, the improvement was also getting stronger. It was only half a year later that the stabbing pain of the source power in the dragon pool reached the level of hellfire burning. The dual torture of the body and soul officially began at this time. Although Han Fei didn't want to bear this pain, he had to become stronger. Besides, he had already endured the hellfire burning for 200 years in the ancient God of Thunder Note's trial and had gained a certain amount of experience. If he had to do it again, Han Fei felt that he should be able to do it. 2 years passed. It was equivalent to diving while being burnt by hellfire for 2 years. His bloodline had increased by 178 places, and the improvement speed had accelerated. His soul and strength had both increased slightly, and his speed was not slow. His soul power had increased by nearly 1,000 origins. If he could increase it at this speed, his basic combat power would exceed 120,020 years. However, when Han Fei continued to dive for less than half a month, he felt that the essence blood flowing in his body was trying to turn into blood dragons that circulated in his body. That's not right. Han Fei's face changed slightly, because he found that when he dove to this depth, the divine source here began to become abnormally violent and domineering, trying to change the flow of his essence blood. Was this any different from trying to shake his bloodline? Han Fei immediately stopped diving and activated his spiritual heritage, forcibly suppressing the anomalies from the essence blood. Although this source power was helping him slowly increase the level of his bloodline, it didn't mean that it could touch his bloodline. However, Han Fei discovered that this mutation was continuous. The divine source in the dragon pool had been trying to touch his essence blood and even seemed to be modifying his bloodline. Han Fei asked, Emperor Sparrow, do you feel that your bloodline has been shaken? The Emperor Sparrow was also enduring the pain, but he still looked cool. He said, the same, this divine source is trying to modify my bloodline. Modify? The Emperor Sparrow said, after all, the dragon pool is an opportunity of the dragon race, not mine, let alone yours. Little White suddenly said, Dad, hasn't this power been trying to modify our bloodline since we began to dive? Huh? Han Fei frowned. According to Little White, didn't it mean that the abnormality of the divine source in the dragon pool had nothing to do with depth, but with the time he dove? In fact, from the beginning, the divine source had helped him improve his bloodline in order to shake his bloodline and even try to modify it. However, as long as he activated the power of his bloodline, he could suppress this anomaly. Han Fei was lost for words. Why didn't Zhu Beinian tell him earlier? No, Zhu Beinian probably doesn't know it. Zhu Beinian was a dragon and was of the same race as these divine sources, so her bloodline might have been running like this in the first place. Besides, even if her bloodline had been modified, it would be a good thing for her. However, he was different from Zhu Beinian. He was a human and couldn't follow the bloodline circulation method of the dragon race. However, if that was the case, why couldn't Zhu Beinian and the others stay in the dragon pool for a long time? In any case, Han Fei must seize the current opportunity and dive deep. Although the depth of the dive had nothing to do with the abnormalities in the dragon pool, there should be other opportunities in the dragon pool, right? Otherwise, why would it be so deep? Why not just make a large pool instead? 7 years later. While enduring the pain comparable to hellfire burning, Han Fei suppressed the power of the divine source that tried to shake his bloodline and finally came to the depths of the dragon pool. Here, he saw hundreds of huge dragon corpses. Huh? Weren't the dragon corpses floating outside? Why were they inside the dragon pool? When Han Fei tried to pass the dragon corpses, with a bang, an extremely violent dragon source instantly rushed into his body. Han Fei's face immediately changed. At that moment, he felt that his bloodline was almost unstable. Immediately afterward, a voice sounded in his ears, Human? You can actually walk here. It seems that the level of your spiritual heritage is quite high. Who is it? Han Fei's heart skipped a beat. Only people from the dragon race could appear in the dragon pool. Little Black and Little White immediately surrounded Han Fei nervously. Even the Emperor Sparrow stood on Han Fei's shoulder as if facing a great enemy. However, this was the Dragon Tim Star Sea, a place where dragons would only come after they died. Besides, this dragon pool was where dragon blood was stored. Logically speaking, there shouldn't be any living creatures here. Could it be that there was a mysterious powerhouse of the dragon race hidden here? Immediately, Han Fei cupped his hands. I'm the current human emperor, Han Fei. Nice to meet you, senior of the dragon race. Oh. Are you the human emperor? You can even become the master of the emperor Sparrow and the twin yin-yang spirit swallowing fish? In front of Han Fei, a blood dragon suddenly formed and swam around Han Fei a few times, seeming to be looking at him. Han Fei certainly wouldn't do anything. This person knew him. Senior brother. Azure Dragon must have mentioned him to this person. Otherwise, he shouldn't know him. In this way, he could at least tell that this dragon powerhouse was not hostile to him. Otherwise, it was hard to say what would happen since this wasn't his own territory. After a while, the blood dragon slowly said, "No wonder. It turns out that you have two spiritual heritages. It's really unique." Han Fei's eyelids twitched slightly. How could this dragon even discover this? The voice said leisurely, "You have double spiritual heritages, the supreme divine technique, and seem to have other top body tempering techniques. Your bloodline is different from that of the ancient human race." Interesting. Human Emperor, your bloodline is different from the pure bloodline of the ancient human race anyway. Instead, you've created a new bloodline that belongs to you. Are you interested in fusing the bloodline of our dragon race? Han Fei asked, "Senior, what do you mean?" In the dragon pool, this time, the power of the divine source has been trying to modify my bloodline. If my guess is correct, this modification shouldn't be beneficial to me but will affect my own bloodline. The voice said leisurely, "You're right. The modification power contained in ordinary divine sources is only beneficial to the dragon race. It's useless to outsiders and will affect your own bloodline. However, that's the power of ordinary divine sources, transformed from the blood of countless ordinary dragons. But what I'll give you is different." Han Fei asked, "Oh? Is there a difference in the power of the divine source?" Of course, since there are realms, there are naturally strong and weak divine sources. Since the current dragon monarch asked you to come in, it means that you have a deep relationship with the dragon race, so I don't have to harm you. The little girl who came before you also fused with a trace of the dragon bloodline, so she completed the cultivation of the heavenly phoenix 9 transformations at the carefree level. Now that you have already surpassed the peak of the extreme Tao, although I can't say that it can increase your strength much, it'll be very easy to improve your bloodline to the top 1,000 of the myriad races." Oh? Han Fei couldn't help but feel a little dazed. Although he could improve his bloodline level by swallowing other bloodlines, there were too few suitable bloodlines, and it would take too long. Now the main way for him to improve his bloodline was through breakthroughs. Only by repeatedly making breakthroughs could he obtain the enhancement of the heavenly Tao origin to improve his bloodline level. If what this dragon senior said was true and could improve his bloodline into the top 1,000, this improvement might even be comparable to transcending a divine tribulation. However, Han Fei didn't accept it immediately. Instead, he said, "Senior, I've been cultivating all the way until now. I know that there's no free lunch in the world. Do you want any return from me?" Ha ha ha. As expected of the emperor of the human race. Your bearing is not bad. The voice said leisurely, "Although you have a good relationship with the dragon race, I don't have to help you like this. Since you brought it up, I'll tell you. If I help you, you need to promise me 2 things. Han Fei thought to himself, this is normal. Based on his trust in Senior Brother Azure Dragon, he didn't doubt this dragon. Otherwise, Senior Brother Azure Dragon would definitely have reminded him. "Senior, which 2 things are you talking about?" The voice became slightly serious. "You should know the curse of the dragon race, right?" Han Fei nodded. "Yes." The man said, "The first thing you need to do is to help the dragon race remove the bloodline curse. However, there is no time limit to this matter. And you don't necessarily have to do it, because all the dragons are dedicated to removing the curse on the dragon race. However, if the dragon race can't do it and you have the chance, please help the dragon race remove the curse. If you die, this matter will naturally have nothing to do with you. But if you don't die, as long as you live for a day, you have to complete this matter. Han Fei asked, even if I promise you now, what if I don't do it in the future? This person smiled and said, the curse on our race is hidden in the trace of dragon bloodline I'll give you. If you completely ignore this matter, the curse of the dragon race will spread to your human race. As the human emperor, you should know that your luck and bloodline alone may affect the entire human race. Han Fei's pupils were constricted. This price was a little too high. The population of the human race and the dragon race were on completely different levels. If the Huma powerhouses were also cursed, once the human race rose in the future, the entire sea realm would probably be doomed. Han Fei said, Senior, the price of your condition is a little high. The man said, if you keep remembering this matter and won't give up on the dragon race, there won't be any price. Han Fei thought for a moment, and then the vast ocean navigator appeared in his palm. Han Fei said, it's not that I don't believe you, but for some things, words alone may not be reliable. Han Fei asked 3 questions in a row. Is what this dragon cultivator said true? If it's true, point at me. If it's fake, point at the Emperor Sparrow. Seeing that the vast ocean navigator was pointing at him, Han Fei was slightly relieved. Just to be sure, Han Fei asked a second question. Did this dragon cultivator lie to me? Yes, point to the Emperor Sparrow. No, point to me. The vast ocean navigator turned and pointed at him. As for the third question, Han Fei said, are there any other drawbacks to the divine source and the dragon bloodline provided by this dragon cultivator? Yes, point to the Emperor Sparrow, and no, point to me. When the vast ocean navigator pointed at him for the third time, Han Fei finally believed this dragon powerhouse. It seemed that his purpose was really simple. The voice laughed. It seems that the current dragon monarch didn't choose the wrong person. This is the vast ocean navigator of the ancient human race. Right? How is it? You've asked it 3 times. What's the result? Han Fei smiled. Senior, why don't you tell me about the second thing? The blood dragon that surrounded Han Fei looked at Han Fei deeply and said, the second thing is that you leave a child in the dragon race. Impossible. Han Fei replied quickly, Senior, I've had a wife and a child, so this is impossible. The blood dragon said, what's wrong with having 3 wives and 4 concubines? There are many heavenly talents in our dragon race. There are all kinds of beautiful dragon girls. There must be a type you like. Han Fei thought to himself, this old guy is very insidious. My bloodline talent is actually not bad at all. It can even be said to be extremely high. You asked me to leave my bloodline for your dragon race, yet you'll only help me improve my bloodline by a little? Han Fei shook his head. Senior, to be honest, the improvement of my bloodline is not as slow as you think. To be honest, the myriad races' bloodlines can't attract me at all. Since you know that I have dual spiritual heritages, and that I walk the supreme divine technique, you should know that the improvement of the dragon pool is only a small opportunity for me. Without the dragon pool, my strength is also improving very quickly, and the improvement of my bloodline won't be slow. Bathing in the divine technique will just buy me some time. Besides, Han Fei chuckled. Besides, Senior, you want to give me an opportunity because you want to bet if I can break the limit of the supreme divine technique. If I Break the bottleneck of the supreme divine technique. What awaits me is another world. Therefore, in exchange, the opportunity you'll give me is not enough for me to agree to your first condition. Oh? You're really confident. Han Fei smiled and said, Senior, since you know the Emperor Sparrow and the twin yin-yang spirit-swallowing fish, you should know that, under normal circumstances, it's impossible for them to become other people's spiritual beasts. Besides, aren't you underestimating me? Oh? Why do you say that? Han Fei extended his left hand, and the demon purification pot appeared in his hand. As he extended his right hand, the creation divine prison appeared. Han Fei said proudly, the demon purification pot is in my hands, so is the creation divine prison. Senior, almost every opportunity one have is not something you can give me. Therefore, if you're willing, you can add a little bit of chips. With my relationship with Senior Brother Azure Dragon, I can consider helping the dragon race remove the curse in the future. You should know that this is a lifelong task. Even a dominator might not be able to complete it, right? There was a faint smile on Han Fei's face. In fact, if Senior Brother Azure Dragon asked him, he would definitely help the dragon race find a way to resolve the curse when he had the ability in the future. However, it was different if others demanded him to do so. Especially this kind of ancient, powerful, and mysterious dragon powerhouse. It would be a waste if he didn't get something more from him. Sure enough, the blood dragon fell silent. There was no telling if it didn't expect Han Fei to have so many opportunities, or if Senior Brother Azure Dragon didn't tell him at all. Han Fei guessed that Senior Brother Azure Dragon probably didn't talk much about him with this person. Otherwise, this mysterious powerhouse wouldn't have proposed to him to help the dragon race remove the curse. This was because Senior Brother Azure Dragon knew that he might not need to say anything. If he had a chance, he would do it. The blood dragon was silent for dozens of seconds. As expected of the Emperor of the human race. I underestimated you. Han Fei cupped his hands. Thank you for your compliment, Senior. Can you accept my proposal? The blood dragon said leisurely, what if I don't accept it? Han Fei said, then I can leave the dragon pool immediately and give up this opportunity. Interesting boy. Since I asked you to come, I won't drive you away. Fine, I see that you are indeed a person of great luck. Otherwise, you wouldn't have been so favored by the current dragon monarch. Fine, I'll add something else. With that, a light spot flashed and quickly approached from the depths of the blood pool. When it came close, Han Fei found it to be a dragon ball. When the dragon ball floated to Han Fei, information immediately appeared in his eyes. Name: Dragon Blood Soul Pearl. Introduction: after a god-slaying dragon dies, it seals its dragon blood and dragon soul in his dragon ball and uses all its strength to condense it into the dragon blood soul pearl. It can strengthen the wearer's physique and soul for a certain period of time. The wearer can also gradually swallow the dragon blood soul pearl to strengthen his physique. And when in danger, the dragon blood soul pearl has the ability to protect his body. Quality: consumable ultra-quality nature spiritual treasure. Effect 1: Dragon Soul Protection. It can resist the soul power attack of a god-slaying level powerhouse until the power of the dragon blood soul pearl is exhausted. Effect 2: Ultimate Strengthening. When the wearer activates the dragon blood soul pearl, it can strengthen his physique and soul. The degree of strengthening depends on the wearer's own strength. It's ineffective for cultivators above the god-slaying level. The dragon blood soul pearl will lose effect after the power contained in it is consumed. Effect 3, devouring. Swallowing the power of the dragon blood soul pearl can strengthen one's flesh, blood, and soul. Can't be reforged. Unrefined soul power divine source, which can only be absorbed after the divine source is born. Remarks, the dragon's last gift. When he saw the function of the dragon blood soul pearl, clearly, Han Fei couldn't help taking a breath. This thing was too suitable for him. It was simply made for him. Although it was a consumable ultra-quality nature spiritual treasure, he couldn't deny the power of this thing. Now, he had been suffering because his physique wasn't strong enough to carry all his strength. However, if he had the dragon blood soul pearl, wouldn't he be able to unleash 10 times his full strength when he activated his original Great Tao? With his current 100,000 basic combat power, coupled with this dragon blood soul pearl, he could have 1,000,000 combat power in a short period of time, which was comparable to or even stronger than ordinary gods. Besides, his basic combat power was only temporarily 100,000. When he completely fused with his origin star, it would be another level of strength. The blood dragon said, "I think you should be able to understand the use of this dragon blood soul pearl for people like you who cultivate the supreme divine technique. When you reach the limit of the current stage and haven't made a breakthrough in the supreme divine technique, you can only keep sealing yourself to ensure that you won't explode from the supreme divine technique. However, the dragon blood soul pearl can allow your physique and soul to carry the extreme pressure of the supreme divine technique. Of course, the premise is that you can't use the dragon blood soul pearl to fight, or the duration of your ability will be reduced." Han Fei smiled. Plus the Emperor Sparrow and the twin yin-yang spirit. Swallowing fish. Boy, you're a little greedy. Han Fei didn't care. Instead, he smiled and said, "Senior, the Emperor Sparrow and the twin yin-yang spirit swallowing fish are both my spiritual beasts. Therefore, their strength is my strength. If the three of us are all very strong, it will be beneficial for me to help the dragon race, right?" "Humph. It's not a big deal. I approve." From the blood dragon's tone, it seemed that he didn't care about them absorbing the divine source. Han Fei had thought that it would take him some time to consider, but he didn't expect him to agree so quickly. It seemed that very few people could come here on normal days. Otherwise, the blood dragon wouldn't have had such a reaction. In fact, the dragon blood soul pearl was far more important to him than the blood dragon thought. Therefore, even if the blood dragon didn't agree, he would actually accept it. Originally, Han Fei just wanted to get some opportunities and leave. He didn't expect to get such a big opportunity. Wouldn't it be a waste not to take it? Han Fei said, "Senior, if I can rise in the future, I will definitely help the dragon race remove the curse." The blood dragon clicked his tongue. "You've changed so fast. But then again, I really suggest you stay in the dragon race for a while longer. Perhaps there will be a dragon girl you like? The dragon girls of my race are really charming. The men of other races can only dream of them." The corner of Han Fei's mouth twitched. "Senior, let's get down to business. For example, how can I fuse the dragon bloodline?" The blood dragon secretly sighed and pointed at the place surrounded by the dragon corpses. "The core of the dragon pool is actually here. The places on the periphery are for ordinary dragons to bathe in. And here, with the Coverage of the 10,000 dragon divine blood array is where the top dragon sources are. As long as you enter the array and control the operation of the divine source with your own bloodline, you can slowly fuse the dragon bloodline and completely turn this power into a part of your own bloodline. Of course, the process will be very painful. How much you can fuse it and how much you can improve depends on your own ability. However, you even dare to walk the supreme divine technique. It's inevitable that your bloodline level will rise to the top 1,000. Hanfei couldn't help being curious. Senior, may I ask what the ranking of the dragon race's bloodline is among the myriad races? The blood dragon sighed. In our era, our dragon race's bloodline was once in the top 10. Now, the dragon race has declined and should have fallen out of the top 100. Hanfei nodded slightly. The top 10 were indeed very strong. Even if their bloodline ranking fell out of the top 100, it was still very strong. In any case, this was one of the top bloodlines of the myriad races. Hanfei said, Senior, I'm going to cultivate. Okay. Help yourself. Let me remind you that if your bloodline can't suppress the power anymore, don't force yourself. Giving up is the best choice. Otherwise, it will only backfire and really mutate your bloodline. Thank you for your reminder, Senior. The blood dragon dissipated and didn't tell Hanfei who he was. However, here, Hanfei was still under his watch. Hanfei looked at the Emperor Sparrow. It's up to you how much you can improve. The Emperor Sparrow tilted his head and looked at Hanfei. By the way, I forgot to tell you that in terms of bloodline level, my bloodline level ranks 6th and has never changed. Hanfei couldn't have felt worse. He asked in shock, 6th? With such a strong bloodline level, why couldn't you become a god in your previous life? The Emperor Sparrow said, the path of ferocious beasts and divine beasts has something wrong. Hanfei immediately looked back at Little Black and Little White. Girl, do you know the level of your bloodline? Little White blinked and then shook her head. She had no concept at all. Little Black said coolly, I don't have this inherited memory. Hanfei sighed in his heart. No wonder he had been unable to devour the bloodlines of the Emperor Sparrow, Little Black and Little White. It turned out that the levels of their bloodlines were too high. He was not on the same level as them at all. Hanfei immediately shut up. Forget what I asked. With that, Hanfei stepped into the range of the 10,000 dragon divine blood array. This time, he was fully prepared. His dual spiritual heritages activated the god-fiend body at the same time. As his essence blood flowed, it was accompanied by the power of all his laws, suppressing the invasion of the divine source. Cough cough cough. Instantly, Hanfei felt the same as the first time he was burned by hellfire. Feng Yu persisted for 33 years? No, there are still a few years on the way. If the return trip is not counted, she only stayed here for 25 years at most. Hanfei sat cross-legged solemnly, feeling that the blood in his body was ringing with dragon roars, which couldn't be stopped at all. A year later, Hanfei barely adapted to the gradually strengthening pain. He also understood why it became more and more painful as time passed. It was because the more divine sources accumulated in his body and tried to change his bloodline, the stronger his body's suppressing power was, the stronger the reaction force, and the more painful. 10 years later, Hanfei was no longer just sitting cross-legged. He often wanted to vent his strength. The effect of practicing all kinds of divine techniques in the dragon pool was surprisingly good. Even activating the god-fiend body could increase his cultivation speed by several times. In the 11th year in the 10,000 dragon divine blood array, Han Fei's basic combat power had exceeded 110,000. His bloodline level had increased by more than 800 places and reached the 2,466th place. It was not because his strength improvement had slowed down, but because Han Fei deliberately used this power to strengthen his flesh and bones. He discovered that the power of the divine source was quite effective in tempering his foundation. In just 11 years, the upper limit of his strength had increased by 4 times. As for the Emperor Sparrow and Little Black and Little White, they didn't seem to have any reaction. The Emperor Sparrow stood on the head of a dragon corpse, holding his head high as if nothing had happened. As for Little Black and Little White, they turned into the Tai Chi Yin-Yang diagram and revolved around each other, looking fine. Han Fei didn't pay much attention to them. In the 23rd year in the 10,000 dragon divine blood array, Han Fei's basic combat power exceeded 120,000. Now, even without the dragon blood soul pearl, he could barely exert 5 times his combat power. As for the bloodline level, it had increased by less than 900 places, reaching the 1,576th place. The Emperor Sparrow, Little Black, and Little White still acted as if nothing had happened. However, the 23rd year was a threshold. At this moment, the pain he felt in his body and soul had completely exceeded the burning of hellfire. As a result, he could no longer practice any divine techniques, because he could almost not feel his body. At this moment, Han Fei could only sit cross-legged and activate the god-fiend body to forcibly suppress the surging blood and qi in his body. In the outside world, Zhu Banian was taking out the last piece of jerky and stuffing it into her mouth. Her huge dragon body was rolling in the void. Still not coming out? The people of the Void Temple are indeed all monsters. It's been 30 years. In the dragon pool, Han Fei knew that he was fighting the divine source with his will and Tao heart. Over the years, he had fused a little dragon bloodline, so the effect was naturally not bad. However, it was not as simple as the blood dragon said to enter the top 1,000. It was the 34th year in the 10,000 dragon divine blood array. At this moment, his basic combat power hadn't changed much. He used all his strength to polish his body. At this moment, his body could probably carry 7 times his combat power. He had no choice. If he wanted to stay here longer, he had to polish the strength of his body. Han Fei immediately understood why Feng Yu could practice the Heavenly Phoenix 9 transformations to the 9th transformation. It turned out that she was forced to do it. However, even if she had completed practicing the Heavenly Phoenix 9 transformations, she had only stayed here for more than 20 years, so the Heavenly Phoenix 9 transformations was not as powerful as the supreme divine technique at all. During this period of time, the improvement speed of Han Fei's bloodline level had decreased slightly. Perhaps because the bloodlines ranking in the top 1,000 were too strong. This time, his bloodline level only increased by 576 places, which happened to be on the 1,000th spot. When Han Fei's bloodline reached the 1,000th place, he felt that the dragon bloodline he had fused in his body was moving. It seems that I can't stay long. Han Fei couldn't help but look at the Emperor Sparrow, Little Black, and Little White. They still hadn't changed. Han Fei was lost for words and immediately asked via voice transmission. Don't you feel pain? The Emperor Sparrow tilted his head. The level of the dragon race's bloodline is lower than mine and can't shake my bloodline, so it doesn't matter. Han Fei. Han Fei was lost for words. Then, Han Fei looked at Little Black and Little White. Just as he was about to speak, the blood dragon that hadn't appeared for many years finally appeared. Your bloodline is rioting. You need to leave here before your bloodline completely mutates. Han Fei nodded with difficulty. I know. The blood dragon glanced at Little Black and Little White. If I remember correctly, the bloodline level of the twin yin-yang spirit swallowing fish seems to be in the top 100. Han Fei was silent. Fine then, so I'm even weaker than my spiritual beasts. Han Fei made up his mind. If he continued to polish his body, his combat power would probably only increase to 8 times. However, it wasn't easy for him to come to the dragon pool. He couldn't just polish his body. Immediately, Han Fei placed the power of the divine source on the improvement of his basic combat power. The gains from this trip to the dragon race had exceeded his imagination. In the last few years, he still had to improve his basic combat power. 8 years passed quickly, and Han Fei clearly felt that he couldn't withstand the baptism of the divine source anymore. Otherwise, there would definitely be a problem with his bloodline. Han Fei glanced at his information first. Owner, Han Fei. Level, 119, Great Monarch. Bloodline ranking among the clans in the Infinite Ocean, the 888th. Immortal Chi, 1, 862, 53. Soul, 139,802 Origins. Strength, 139,802 Star Powers. First Spiritual Heritage, Origin Spiritual Heritage. Second Spiritual Heritage, Eternal Darkness Spiritual Heritage. First Spiritual Beast, Twin Yin-Yang Sky Swallowing Fish, Level 119. Second Spiritual Beast, Emperor Sparrow, Level 119. Main Art, God-Fiend Body. This time, his basic combat power had increased by nearly 20,000 points, but the improvement of his bloodline level had clearly decreased, only by 112 places. It seemed that he had almost reached his limit. Han Fei shouted, Emperor Sparrow, son, daughter, are you done? Little Black and Little White swam to Han Fei, and Little Black said coolly, we can leave at any time. Little White smiled sweetly. Daddy, I'm full. I want to sleep. Then let's go back to sleep. Han Fei immediately collected Little Black and Little White, but the Emperor Sparrow replied casually, how about waiting for me for 3 years? Han Fei said to the dragon pool, Senior, can I? The mysterious powerhouse's voice sounded leisurely, yes. Senior, can you give me a ride? Blood dragon, there's no obstacle to getting out. Try it. Buzz. With a thought, Han Fei left the dragon pool with a swish. But what Han Fei didn't know was that after he left, the blood dragon slowly said, tell me. What do you want? The Emperor Sparrow said proudly, shall we make a deal? For example, I'll help you revive. Outside the dragon pool. After Han Fei left the dragon pool, he felt refreshed. It feels great not to be tortured anymore. Roar. Han Fei. As soon as Han Fei came out, he heard Zhu Banyan scream. On Zhu Banyan's huge white dragon head, her 2 big eyes widened. You actually stayed in the dragon pool for 49 years. You stayed as long as Brother Dragon Monarch. Can you stop startling me? You're making me think that the ominous is coming again. Han Fei was relaxed at this moment. He took out 2 glasses of juice and handed one to Zhu Banian while drinking the other. Swish. Zhu Banian turned into a human and still stared at Han Fei. She took the juice in a daze, and with a swish, the bottle of juice was instantly emptied. The corner of Han Fei's mouth twitched. Delicious things should be tasted slowly. What's so delicious about it? These kinds of fruits are all over Dragon Valley. You can pick them up anywhere. Zhu Banian looked Han Fei up and down and suddenly said, "Is the Void Temple really not accepting disciples anymore? I heard that your numbers are very few." Han Fei was lost for words. You can ask your brother Dragon Monarch about that. Zhu Banian immediately let out a long sigh like a deflated ball. Then forget it. Did you really hold on for 49 years inside? Are you still human? Han Fei asked. The Dragon Monarch is my senior brother. If he can stay for 49 years, why can't I stay for 49 years? Zhu Banian thought to herself, that's right. After all, he's also from the Void Temple. It's normal for him to be strong. She said, then are we going back now? Do you want to stay in the dragon race for a while longer? There are many dragon girls waiting for you. Huh? Dragon girls, wait for me? Why? To have a baby with you. Puff. Han Fei vomited all the juice in his mouth and said helplessly, wait, who said I was going to have a baby with them? Bye-bye, let me tell you, don't take me wrong. Zhu Banian said, well, you're very powerful, have an extraordinary bloodline, and our brother Dragon Monarch's junior brother. Don't worry. The dragon girls of our dragon race won't mind. I don't care if they mind or not. Well, I still have to wait here for 3 years. Why? Han Fei said, you know that human beings all have spiritual beasts, right? My spiritual beast is still in the dragon pool. It will probably take another 3 years. What? Doesn't that mean that your spiritual beast is going to stay in the dragon pool for 52 years? Thinking of the arrogant look of the Emperor Sparrow, Han Fei said helplessly. Yes. He's more resistant to beatings. Zhu Banian's big eyes immediately revealed a thoughtful look. Then I'll ask the dragon girls to come here. Don't. My strength has soared, and I need to consolidate my cultivation now. Zhu Banian immediately smiled slyly. Okay, but you gotta get me some jerky. I want a lot of jerky. Han Fei. Is this a threat? Zhu Banian patted Han Fei's shoulder. Of course not. You made so much jerky for Wan Wan and the others. It wasn't easy for me to get some from Wan Wan. I've already finished it. You can't favor one over the other. Han Fei said, but your brother Dragon Monarch. Zhu Banian immediately interjected, my Dao heart is firm. A mere jerky can't shake my Dao heart. Otherwise, I wouldn't have become a god. I just want 10 big fish. You made a big fish for Wan Wan and the others. I won't ask you for more. 10 will be enough. 10? Han Fei rolled his eyes. I don't run a restaurant. Where can I get so much meat? Zhu Banian tilted her head. Not so much? 9 will do. 1. Roar. What? Only 1? I'll call Wan Wan and the others over now. Wait, 2. I only have so much meat on me. Who would pile this in his origin? Starve for no reason? Don't you think so? 2 is a lot. Long Wan and the other nearly 20,000 dragons only get 1, but I'll give you 2. If you still think this is not enough, I'll have to tell the old dragon god. Then you won't be able to get any. Jubanian bared her teeth, but then she remembered that Long Wan and the others had indeed only shared a portion of jerky. In that case, she seemed to be able to get a lot. Okay. Then I'll reluctantly accept it. Hanfei was secretly relieved. Senior brother Azure Dragon, you can't blame me. It's not that I didn't listen to you, but your race's dragon girls are too enthusiastic. I can't take it. 3 years later. Tweet. A huge black bird spread its wings and flew out of the dragon pool, sweeping across the sky, exuding a terrifying suppressing pressure. Hanfei suddenly opened his eyes. The peak of the extreme Tao? No. It's beyond the peak of the extreme Tao. Hanfei was a little dumbfounded. What was going on? Although the dragon pool made the Emperor Sparrow break through to the great monarch realm, it couldn't have directly increased his strength to this point, right? Jubanian exclaimed, wow. What a powerful bird. It's much more powerful than Fengyu. Hearing this, the Emperor Sparrow immediately tilted his head. Little dragon girl, I am the Emperor Sparrow, not a bird. But you are very small. Ah. Are you the Emperor Sparrow? Jubanian immediately exclaimed. Although she looked simple-minded, she didn't forget the knowledge she should know at all. If she hadn't heard of the Emperor Sparrow, she would be too ignorant. Jubanian couldn't help but look at Hanfei. Is the Emperor Sparrow your spiritual beast? Hanfei shrugged slightly and then asked in confusion, why have you become so much stronger? The Emperor Sparrow said proudly, is it much? My bloodline is powerful, so it's only natural for me to absorb it quickly. Have you ever heard of the saying, silent all along, but astonishing once it speaks? Heh. Hanfei complained in his heart, stop pretending. I have the restrictions of the supreme divine technique, and you're trapped in a breakthrough bottleneck. We are in the same boat, so who are you trying to fool? Hanfei immediately said, okay, since we're out, we should go back. Jubanian hurriedly said, Hanfei, are you really not going back to the dragon race with me? At least say goodbye to the old dragon god and the others. Thinking of the dragon girls waiting for him, Hanfei couldn't help shaking his head quickly. Bye-bye, help me say hello to the old dragon god and the others. Just say that there are still very important matters waiting for me to deal with in the sea realm. It concerns the entire situation of the sea realm and is urgent, so I won't say goodbye to them. Ha. Little friend Hanfei, you've really put in a lot of effort to hide from our race's dragon girls. In the void, the old dragon god's hearty laughter approached. In the next moment, the old dragon god appeared. Hanfei immediately cupped his hands. Senior dragon god, why are you here? I really have something urgent to do. I have to solve the bloodline recovery problem for the divine descendants. I came to the dragon race to bathe in the dragon pool because of this matter, so I'm trying to improve my strength as soon as possible. Oh? The divine descendants, are their bloodlines about to revive? The old dragon god muttered to himself and then said, that's fine. Little friend Hanfei, go ahead. However, even if you don't go to the dragon race, we Dragons can't be rude. After all, you're the emperor of the human race, so I still have to see you off. Han Fei smiled. Thank you, Senior Dragon God. Okay. Since there are still many things for you to deal with in the sea realm. Go. But as soon as he said so, he extended his hand to Zhu Banian. Girl, take it. Out. Zhu Banian's heart skipped a beat. What? The old dragon god smiled and said, do you want me to ask your mother for it? Immediately, Zhu Banian felt terrible. She almost cried and said cutely, Grandpa Dragon God, I'm hungry, hungry. Eat the fruits if you're hungry. Don't play tricks with me. Seeing this, Han Fei cast a comforting look at Zhu Banian, thinking that it wasn't his fault. The dragon god discovered it himself. Having no choice, Zhu Banian finally took out some jerky. The old dragon god said, there's more. Zhu Banian said, only this little bit. The old dragon god said, 2 big fish are enough for tens of thousands of dragons. You ate them alone for 3 years. Isn't that enough? Hurry up. Ah. How did you know? Han Fei clicked his tongue and immediately took out his token to summon the distanceless gate. Swish. The distanceless gate appeared, and the words, Greetings, Dragon God appeared on it. The old dragon god nodded slightly. That's good. Rules are dead, but people are alive. Helping others travel to and from different worlds is also to better resist the ominous. Han Fei cupped his hands again. Then, Senior Dragon God, I'll take my leave. First? The dragon god nodded slightly. Han Fei looked at the distanceless gate and said, take me to the Guardian. See. Don't be discovered by others. Okay. Seeing that Han Fei was going straight to the Guardian Sea, the distanceless gate didn't hesitate at all. What could he do in the Guardian Sea? Of course. It was to fight the ominous. Since Han Fei was going to take the initiative to fight the ominous, this teleportation was free. Besides, the effect of cooperating with Han Fei was indeed not bad. Zhang Xiaoling didn't lie to him. Although he didn't personally watch the battle in the dragon race this time, he knew that the ominous mist on the dragon race's side had been sealed. Even a Dominator-level ominous creature had died. Although it wasn't Han Fei's credit, at least Han Fei was involved. Swish. After Han Fei left, the dragon god successfully took most of the meat on Zhu Banian. Even if there was still some left, it was not much. The dragon god said majestically, you forgot what the dragon monarch instructed you to do. I punish you to face the wall for 500 years. Don't sleep while facing the wall. Ah? Grandpa Dragon God. Huh? Okay. After the dragon god drove Zhu Banian away, he bowed slightly to the dragon pool. Dragon ancestor, why did you call me over? An ancient voice sounded leisurely from the dragon pool, prepare the resources to restore my body. I'm going to revive. Revive? After being shocked for quite a while, the dragon god asked in confusion. Isn't your body here? The dragon said impatiently, how old am I? Can't my body be old? Can't I change to a new one? Swish. In the Guardian Sea, on a certain purification star in the Skynet, the distanceless gate appeared. These purification stars occasionally had strong masters guarding them, but not every purification star had people. Otherwise, too many people would be needed. As soon as Han Fei appeared, he entered his origin star again. The reason why he chose to come directly to a deserted place of the Guardian C was that he didn't want to expose his whereabouts to anyone. The Emperor Sparrow was right. As the saying went, silent all along, but astonishing once it speaks. The improvement of his bloodline made Han Fei realize that one of his advantages was that his cultivation speed had become faster, so theoretically speaking, the speed of refining his origin star should have become faster. Returning to his familiar origin star, Han Fei was slightly relieved and then came to the Sea of Stars immediately. However, in the distant Star River, Qiu Wanren was swallowing the drifting laws in the Sea of Stars. You're back? Huh, your strength seems to have improved a lot. Han Fei said, Senior, how much have I improved? How can I compare to you? Are you already at the god-slaying level? Qiu Wanren's body that was sitting cross-legged in the air automatically spun, facing Han Fei. He slowly opened his eyes. If you had come back a year earlier, you could have witnessed my god-slaying tribulation. However, I can't return to the creation divine prison yet. I've just made a breakthrough. I still need time to consolidate my cultivation and confirm some thoughts that I couldn't do before. Han Fei smiled and said, Of course. It's up to you. I'm just here to take a look. If the battle starts, I'll come to you. After seeing Qiu Wanren, Han Fei went to chat with Hong Yu for a while. After confirming that everything was fine at home, he was relieved. He also read the East Sea Divine Realm's intelligence about the West Wilderness. Everything was normal. There were no signs of the death of a great monarch, which was enough. This meant that everything in the West Wilderness was peaceful. However, Hong Yu said that Yi was talented and had already taken Li Tiangong as her master and returned to the East Sword Pavilion, which made Han Fei feel gratified. Seeing that everything was fine, Han Fei returned to his origin star in relief. After finishing his cultivation in the Dragon Pool, Han Fei still needed to refine his origin star. 130 years later. On Han Fei's origin star, among many abandoned refined stars, Han Fei slowly opened his eyes. His eyes were like torches, and there seemed to be a green river flowing on his body. Above his head, there was a larger river flowing. Gradually, the two rivers fused, but they didn't completely fuse. Sure enough, I'm still a little lacking. Before the star core is refined, I can't completely fuse with the river of life of my origin star. However, after the level of his bloodline increased, the effect was indeed extraordinary. This cultivation time was 70 years shorter than he expected. If his bloodline was in the top 100, it would probably be faster. Looking at the countless abandoned refined stars around him, and then at the remaining refined stars, Han Fei was relieved to see that there were still 1.02 million refined stars left. Although he couldn't refine the star core this time, he had already refined everything except the star core. He didn't know if his current strength could match the god of war. Han Fei glanced at his information, which appeared. Owner, Han Fei. Level, 119, Great Monarch. Bloodline ranking among the clans in the Infinite Ocean, the 888th. Immortal Chi, 104,413. Soul, 181,002 Origins. Strength, 181,002 Star Powers. First Spiritual Heritage, Origin Spiritual Heritage. Second Spiritual Heritage, Eternal Darkness Spiritual Heritage. First Spiritual Beast, Twin Yin-Yang Sky Swallowing Fish, Level 119. Second Spiritual Beast, Emperor Sparrow, Level 119. Main Art, God Fiend Body. Han Fei wasn't too surprised to see such combat power. After all, he had used 1.56 million refined stars. It would be strange if his strength didn't grow. His current strength had clearly surpassed the extreme Dao, but he didn't know how much it had surpassed this so-called extreme Dao. Anyway, he was already confident of fighting the Eastern Divine Crocodile, and it was even possible that he could surpass the top 3 bandits of the West Wilderness. However, when Han Fei tried to operate his original Great Dao, he frowned slightly. 5 times? It seemed that there were also disadvantages to quickly increasing his strength. Although his basic combat power had become stronger, the limit of strength his body could withstand had dropped from 7 to 5 times. In terms of peak combat power, it was not even as good as when he just came out of the dragon pool. At least, back then, his peak combat power was nearly 1 million. But now, it was only 900,000. However, it was all temporary. Besides, he still had the dragon blood soul pearl. If he had to use the dragon blood soul pearl, the higher, the basic combat power, the better. Ka. Han Fei got up and felt the surging energy in his body. After exercising a little, he felt that there seemed to be a lot of energy hidden in his body. Whatever, it's time to go out. In the Skynet, Qin Ci was sniping at the ominous creatures passing by on a purification star. Although the Skynet was dense, there were still gaps among the purification stars. There were many fish that escaped the net. Otherwise, there wouldn't have been the dam behind. Qin Ci was rather depressed at this moment. For some reason, the pressure on the Skynet was getting heavier and heavier, and more fish escaped the net. Did something happen to the front line? The Guardian Sea is such a big battlefield. That's impossible. It's been decades, but no fellow Daoist has come to help me. Seriously, how powerful do you think I am? Slurp. Suddenly, Qin Ci looked at the purification star next door. At some point, a figure was standing there, holding a cup in his hand and drinking something. How is it possible? This person is standing next to me. Why didn't I notice him at all? An expert. Qin Ci's heart skipped a beat. The other party could stand on the purification star, which meant that he was definitely a strong master of the myriad races. He didn't find the other party at such a close distance, which meant that this person was clearly stronger than him. And he had already reached the peak of the carefree level. This person was at least an immortal level powerhouse. Qin Ci shouted, fellow Daoist, are you here to help me guard this pass? Han Fei had been standing here for a while, because he found that the ominous creatures outside the purification stars seemed to have become more. Feeling a little strange, he watched for a while and drank a cup of fruit juice to relax. Hearing Qin Ci's shout, Han Fei said casually, "Oh, I'm just passing by." By the way, fellow Daoist, there seem to be more ominous creatures in the Skynet. Qin Ci was speechless, thinking to himself, do you only know that now? However, the other party is stronger than me, so I can't argue with him. Qin Ci said, yes. I've just been transferred over to participate in the war. Less than 50 years ago, and haven't been ordered to go to the Guardian City. I don't know if something happened at the front line. Oh? Were you transferred here? Qin Ci was stunned. Aren't you? Han Fei shook his head. I came here on my own. Isn't this a free hunting area? For everyone? Why do we need to be arranged for guarding? Who assigned you this task? Qinsei wasn't sure where Han Fei came from, but he didn't think too much about it. He just replied, I came with my race's great monarch from the Aurora battlefield in the chaotic sea. Now that the ominous is counter-attacking, this kind of conscription is normal. Fellow Daoist, where are you from? Han Fei thought for a moment and smiled. I'm from the Ferocious God Valley. Ferocious God Valley? Qinsei was a little puzzled. You're from the Ferocious God Valley? Then you should know the Guardian Sea better than me. Why don't you even know what happened in the Guardian Sea? However, before Qinsei could ask, Han Fei had already stepped out of the purification star. Swish. 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 The moment Han Fei stepped out, tens of thousands of law chains appeared here. In an instant, thousands of ominous creatures passing by here were pierced through. Yes, all of them. Qinsei's eyes widened. There were 5 terrifying level ominous creatures among the 1,000 or so ominous creatures. He complained because he saw 5 terrifying level ominous creatures appear. After all, it was impossible for him, a peak-level carefree level cultivator, to stop all these ominous creatures alone. However, what he felt was impossible could be done easily by the person on the opposite side without even moving his hand. A great monarch? A veteran great monarch. Immediately, Qinsei was refreshed. It was impossible for an immortal to control the chains of laws and instantly cover the surrounding battlefield like this. Greetings, senior. Han Fei looked at Qinsei's unshaven face and wondered who was the senior. Han Fei nodded. You've worked hard. Puff. 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 Han Fei casually raised his foot and appeared at the next purification star. Along the way, all the ominous creatures above the corruption level were pierced through. Swish, swish. After only a few steps, Han Fei disappeared from Qinsei's eyes. Qinsei was about to say that he had forgotten the energy crystals, but then he smiled self-deprecatingly. He was a great monarch. Why would he care about these trivial things? Guardian City. When Han Fei set foot here again, he found that there were nearly 1/3 fewer strong masters in the city than when he came. You came again? The source of the sound was a spatial rift above the Guardian City. Han Fei scanned around with his perception and saw the god he had met before. Greetings, senior. The god said indifferently, I haven't seen you for only 300 years. You seem to have become much stronger. Han Fei said, I happened to get some opportunities. Senior, there seem to be fewer people in Guardian City. It's not that there are fewer people, but that there are more and more ominous creatures coming from the Star Sea Broken Cliff. If you come to clear the rankings now, it might not be the right time. Now, there have been several divine battles over there. Han Fei cupped his hands. Thank you for your reminder, senior, but I still want to try. The god hesitated for a moment and then nodded slightly. Fine, go ahead. However, if you can't do it this time, come back in 300 years. If you come, there will definitely be a divine war. At this moment, the war in the Sea of Stars is intensifying. You have to take the overall situation into consideration first and clear the rankings second. Han Fei was briefly stunned and smiled bitterly in his heart. I don't want to. However, I'm the owner of the demon purification pot. Han Fei knew what this god meant. He could tell that his strength had soared. If he made a move now, it would definitely cause a divine battle. Once the divine battle started, it would be hard to say if it would be his own battle. Once the gods participated in the battle, it was very likely to cause a greater war. Therefore, it was normal for this god to have some scruples. However, for him, there was no next time. His return this time would definitely start a war with the Central Sea divine realm. Otherwise, it would take countless years for him to get resources and continue to improve his strength. It wouldn't be as simple as 100 or 200 years to refine the star core of his origin star, so he didn't have time. Thank you, Senior. The front-line battlefield of the Guardian Sea was not the Star Sea broken cliff, but the end of the Skynet. Their main combat power was at the carefree level or the immortal level. There were also a few great monarchs guarding. When Han Fei flew past the Skynet, he found that there were more carefree level cultivators here. He would see one every once in a while. And when he came to the end of the Skynet, he found that almost every purification star at the front line had strong masters temporarily guarding it. Outside the purification star, he perceived that there were nearly 800 battlefields where fierce battles were taking place. These strong masters mainly stayed on the purification stars in the Skynet to kill ominous creatures. It was called sniping because although there were many ominous creatures, they didn't have high intelligence. Their combat skills were generally weaker than the strong masters of the myriad races of the same realm. Therefore, the front-line battlefield filtered the ominous creatures over and over again through layers of filtering. They would try their best to kill any ominous creatures above the corruption level on the spot. If they really didn't have the time to kill them, they would let them go and leave them to their comrades in the rear. Han Fei had killed more than 30,000 ominous creatures of various levels along the way, but they were all not very strong. Han Fei had planned to skip the front-line battlefield and go straight to the Star Sea broken cliff, but to his surprise, Luo Xiaobai and the other three were on the battlefield. At this moment, Lu Renquan had just swallowed a terrifying level ominous creature and muttered, "Are these ominous creatures out of their minds? They have been attacking for nearly 100 years. Why are there still so many of them? Where did they get so many people?" Zhang Xuanyu thrust his spear and pierced through a corruption-level creature. The spear light dazzled and shattered it. He also complained, "Then go ask. I heard that the same thing happened on many other battlefields in the Sea of Stars." Xiao Xiaochan stood on the head of the giant arowana. Every time the giant arowana roared, the ominous creatures nearby would stop for a moment, and some of the weaker ones would be directly shattered. She said, "If it's really so easy to deal with, so many divine powerhouses wouldn't have died in the past. I think this is just the beginning." Zhang Xuanyu rolled his eyes. "And this is just the beginning?" Luo Xiaobai was also standing on the back of the giant arowana, but she didn't attack. She seemed to be recovering from some injuries. She said, "Xiaochan is right. It had been 1,000 years, so this is just the beginning of the ominous counterattack. I even think that the ominous creatures are just consuming the basic combat power of the strong masters of the myriad races. So far, the Guardian Sea has lost 173 monarchs, and more than 8,000 sky openers have died on the dam. And this is just one of our battlefields. It's said that there are hundreds of ominous battlefields in the Sea of Stars. There are still 1,080 battlefields left." When Han Fei's voice sounded, the four of them were stunned. Xiao Xiaochan asked in joy and surprise, "When did you come back?" Han Fei said, "I just came back. I had wanted to clear the rankings of the primordial tower, but I didn't expect to meet you as soon as I came. Luo Xiaobai said, this is not surprising. In the 7 trials of the primordial tower, except for the guardian sea and the mysterious primordial mystic trial, 60% of the people in the other 5 trials have come to the ominous battlefield. Zhang Xuanyu casually nailed 3 pollution-level ominous creatures to death with his spear and said at the same time, my challenge in the Golden City has been stopped. It said that everyone has to serve for 300 years. Han Fei was puzzled. Whose order? Lu Renquang said, the bandit god said it in person in the ferocious god valley. Han Fei thought to himself, isn't the ominous counterattack just beginning? Why is there such a big battle? Luo Xiaobai seemed to know what Han Fei was thinking. It's impossible for the ominous creatures to maintain this level of impact all the time. After all, in terms of efficiency, they need to spend thousands of ominous creatures to hurt a strong master of the myriad races. If there are really 1,080 battlefields in the Sea of Stars as you said, then the ominous has to mobilize too many people. Therefore, I think this level of counterattack is more like a test. The ominous is testing the current strength of the myriad races and consuming a batch of their vital strength. Han Fei frowned. The Time Temple still hasn't taken action? Xia Xiaochan said, of course they did. After all, the number of people in the Guardian Sea is limited. The Time Temple took action 100 years ago. Now they're at the front and you need to cross a long distance to see them. It's precisely because they're at the front that the battle here can still go on. But we can't count on the Time Temple to resist the ominous alone, so it's normal to have casualties. As she spoke, Xia Xiaochan suddenly said, Zhang Xuanyu. On Zhang Xuanyu's side, a wave of as many as 100 corruption level ominous creatures rushed over. Zhang Xuanyu didn't care. Instead, he held his spear like a pillar and turned it. A spear tide pounced at the group of corruption-level cultivators. While attacking, Zhang Xuanyu asked curiously, why are there suddenly so many corruption-level ominous creatures ahead? Suddenly, Luo Xiaobai said, be careful of traps. As soon as Luo Xiaobai said so, the hundreds of corruption-level ominous creatures instantly fused into one, and their strength instantly soared to the world-ending level. In the blink of an eye, Zhang Xuanyu changed his combat techniques and poured half of his qi and blood into the spear. It seemed to have triggered the ultra-quality nature spiritual treasure in his hand, and the spear stabbed out more than 300 layers of void waves. Bang! 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 Perhaps Zhang Xuanyu and the other 3 were more conspicuous together, or maybe they were too strong, so they were targeted. Therefore, the world-ending level ominous was targeting them. The spear waves were penetrated by the world-ending level with an ominous sword light level by level. Clang! Swish! Just as Zhang Xuanyu was about to erupt, suddenly, the space around the world-ending level seemed to be instantly imprisoned. In the next moment, dozens of law chains immediately pierced through it. The world-ending level was instantly purified by the light emitted by the law chains. Zhang Xuanyu was stunned for a moment and then looked back at Han Fei. Fei, what's your current strength? A world-ending level ominous has died. Just like that? And it can't reassemble itself. Han Fei smiled casually. In the same realm, ominous creatures are relatively weak in the first place. If you had used the tertiary body and a secret technique just now, you would probably have been able to resolve it. The 4 of you can definitely kill it together. Han Fei didn't doubt Zhang Xuanyu's strength. After all, they were all in the late stage of the immortal level at this moment, and they had been in this realm for nearly 300 years. During this period, the four of them were all cultivating in the primordial tower. Their strength had clearly been stabilized, and their divine paths had appeared. It was only a matter of time before they became great monarchs. Therefore, it wasn't difficult for the four of them to kill a world-ending level ominous creature with their own abilities. Zhang Xuanyu smiled speechlessly. "You're quite confident in us." Xia Xiaochan was stunned. "What is your current strength?" As soon as Xia Xiaochan said so, she felt hundreds of gazes on her. Obviously, the anomaly on Zhang Xuanyu's side had attracted their attention. These people probably wanted to remind them or try to help, but before they could speak, the world-ending level powerhouse had been quietly killed. Han Fei said, "It's hard to say how strong I am now. But this time I'll definitely clear the list of the primordial tower." Lu Renquang was lost for words. Li Daoi's list? Han Fei smiled and said, "Well, let me try. The pressure on the front line seems to be a little great. Let's fight our way through from here." Hearing Han Fei's words, although the four of them didn't know Han Fei's current strength, they knew he was probably unbelievably strong. Otherwise, he wouldn't have said such a thing. With Han Fei and the others as the center, tens of thousands of life law chains extended from the surrounding void. Puff. 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 Bang. 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 As soon as the chains of life rules appeared, nearly 6,000 ominous creatures were pierced almost at the same time, regardless of whether they were above or below the corruption level, and they had no chance to condense again. Sh*T. Zhang Xuanyu cursed. The place they were at was equivalent to a city wall, blocking the ominous creatures surging from the star-sea broken cliff on the first line of defense. Therefore, there were a lot of ominous creatures on the defense line they were in. It was precisely because of this that even if they let go of those ominous creatures below the terrifying level, they still needed to keep fighting. However, Han Fei had wiped out a group of ominous creatures. He was equivalent to thousands of people in terms of combat power. It wasn't that Zhang Xuanyu and the others hadn't seen a great monarch attack. But even a great monarch wasn't so powerful. However, Zhang Xuanyu and the others were fine. The monarchs who were fighting nearby were all shocked to see that Han Fei had easily eliminated a group of ominous creatures. So strong. How is that possible? Who did this? This directly tore a gap in the ominous army. Is it the fellow Taoist who just came? Seeing this scene, some great monarchs couldn't help but look at Han Fei. Han Fei stepped out and strolled in the void. As he did, a storm of laws rose. Behind him, seemingly endless mysterious patterns circulating in the void. In the blink of an eye, Han Fei had already rushed millions of kilometers away. Wherever he passed, no ominous creatures could survive. I remember now. He's human Emperor Han Fei. He disappeared for nearly 300 years and now he's back in the Guardian Sea. Hiss. The Han Fei who destroyed the heaven-concealing divine race. Oh. Is he here to clear the rankings? Is he crazy to clear the rankings at such a critical moment? Has he become a god? Why is he so strong? Those who could charge at the front line were all monarchs who had gained many combat experiences. Otherwise, they wouldn't have been able to guard such a large territory. However, among the great monarchs they had seen, it couldn't Be said that there were no monarchs who could unleash such power with a raise of their hands, but they had either used supreme secret techniques or were the only ones in the world. Bang! 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 Like fireworks blooming in the sea of stars, wherever Han Fei passed, all the ominous creatures within tens of millions of kilometers exploded into balls of fireworks, without exception. If the list of the primordial tower was only ranked by the number of kills, Han Fei was 10,000% confident that he could top it. Now, the world-ending level ominous creatures should have been blocked at the front by the strong masters of the Time Temple, so most of them were at the terrifying or destruction level. The ominous creatures of this level couldn't shake Han Fei at all. Unless millions of them surrounded him, they couldn't shake Han Fei at all. Therefore, when Han Fei rushed out of the first defense line of the Skynet, he created a vacuum. In the blink of an eye, countless ominous creatures died. Of course, Han Fei's goal was definitely not these ominous creatures. No matter how many of these ominous creatures he killed, he couldn't achieve his goal of clearing the rankings. He just took action by the way to relieve some pressure on the front line. This was because as Han Fei moved forward, the ominous creatures that didn't have much intelligence and only fought instinctively would pounce on him one after another. Xia Xiaochan and the other three went forward together. It wasn't easy for the 5-person team to reunite, so they certainly wouldn't watch Han Fei rush to the Star Sea broken cliff alone. Gradually, the 5 of them disappeared from the eyes of countless people on the first line of defense of the Skynet. Some great monarchs were curious and wanted to go over to take a look, but a divine voice sounded here, "Everyone, guard the front line and don't leave your spots." Han Fei's battle was not something ordinary people could participate in. Even if there were strong masters from the Time Temple guarding the Star Sea broken cliff, they had no time to care about the lives of so many people. Han Fei forcefully cut through a vacuum zone all the way. On the way from the Skynet to the Star Sea broken cliff, he had killed more than 100,000 ominous creatures of various sizes. Lu Renquang and Luo Xiaobai helped pick up the energy crystals along the way. Lu Renquang said, "Fei Fei, with your current strength, if you stay on the first front line of the Skynet, you can get at least 300,000 to 500,000 energy crystals. Why are you in such a hurry to go to the Star Sea broken cliff?" Han Fei said, "There should be a unique perception between the ominous creatures, like the shattering of a life tablet. If too many of them die at once, the strong masters in the ominous mist might think that a god-level powerhouse has taken action, and may start a divine battle first." Xia Xiaochan asked, "Do you think that by acting like this, they won't start a divine war first?" Han Fei said, "All the more reason to hurry up." Han Fei was not afraid of starting a divine war, but he was worried that when a god-slaying level battle would start, once a god-slaying level powerhouse took action, it would be difficult for him to continue to clear the rankings in peace. Therefore, he needed to set a record in a limited time. On the Star Sea broken cliff, there were 7 great monarchs and 1 god from the Time Temple. These people controlled hundreds of thousands of ancient creatures and were fighting millions of ominous creatures. This scale was much larger than the last time he saw it. In addition, more than 300 great monarchs from the Guardian Sea were also helping with the battle. However, on the other side of the cliff, groups of world-ending level ominous creatures, as well as a massive number of destruction level and terrifying level ominous creatures, surged out. Someone asked solemnly, "Why are there suddenly so many world-ending and destruction level ominous creatures here?" Someone cursed angrily, "Hey, ominous, are you going to start a divine war?" In one of the ominous mists, a doomsday-level ominous creature stuck its body out. Even if a divine battle starts, it started by you guys. A god actually took action in the rear and killed more than 100,000 of our soldiers in an hour. Don't tell me you don't know. Huh? Everyone was dumbfounded. Could it be that the pressure of the Skynet was too great, and a god had taken action? Swish. 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 At this moment, Han Fei and the others broke through the void and appeared in everyone's perception in the blink of an eye. Huh? 4 immortals and 1 great monarch? A great monarch scolded, "Why are immortal-level cultivators here? Do you want to die?" Someone frowned. "Who asked you to come here?" "Stupid, that great monarch, why aren't you guarding the Skynet? Why did you bring 4 immortals here? Huh?" After all, few of the great monarchs came from the ferocious God Valley. Most of them were transferred from various fronts, so most of them didn't know Han Fei. However, a few people recognized Han Fei at a glance. "Fellow Taoist human emperor, have you come out of seclusion?" "Fellow Taoist Han Fei, are you here to clear the rankings?" A few people had met Han Fei once in the ferocious God Valley and knew that Han Fei was extraordinary. This person hadn't appeared for 300 years, so his appearance this time was definitely not simple. A great monarch was puzzled. Human emperor? Han Fei? Who is he? Many great monarchs were puzzled. This person seemed to be quite famous, but why didn't they know him? At this moment, a god of the Time Temple looked at Han Fei and said, "Human Emperor, now is not the time to clear the rankings." Han Fei said calmly, "Those who know me should know I'm not merely for the sake of ranking clearing. Thank you for your reminder, but I'm definitely going to clear the list today." What a bold statement. The great monarchs were speechless. How could this guy still be so tough in the face of a god? Was he crazy? However, they didn't know that Han Fei didn't like the Time Temple. Perhaps these people had the same goal as the Void Temple. However, in addition to the same goal, they still had a lot of schemes in their hearts. For example, they once schemed against him for the demon purification pot. Also, Shiman Linglan was still suppressed in the river of eternal darkness. After this matter in the sea realm was over, he had to save her no matter what. Seeing that Han Fei's tone was tough, the god of the Time Temple, surprisingly, didn't say anything. Many great monarchs were very surprised. What's this guy's identity? Why didn't he give the Time Temple any face at all? Immediately, a white-robed goddess appeared in the void. Here, there were more than one god. If nothing unexpected happened, they usually wouldn't take any action. However, it was a surprise that Han Fei came. The goddess took a deep look at Han Fei. "Only this once." Han Fei smiled. "Thank you, Senior." Then, Han Fei said to Xia Xiaochan and the others, "Don't attack rashly. If anything happens, retreat." Xia Xiaochan said, "Be careful." In the next moment, the goddess said, "Everyone, retreat billions of kilometers." The god of the Time Temple also nodded slightly. "Retreat for now." For a moment, the hundreds of great monarchs were stunned. Just because someone came, they all retreated? Besides, would the countless ominous gods that had just surged out give them a chance to retreat? At this moment, Han Fei stepped on the air and passed the great monarchs in the blink of an eye. At the same time, the iconic chains of life appeared. Around Han Fei. Swish. 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 Puff, puff, puff. Wherever the chains of the law of life passed, one ominous creature after another was pierced through. No one survived. The doomsday level ominous roared angrily, "It's you?" Han Fei raised his head and replied with a smile, "It's me." "You again." This time, roars came from another ominous mist that spanned the star sea. Broken cliff. Han Fei sneered. "Stop pretending. If you want to talk, come out. Kill." The doomsday level one that had already appeared hesitated and didn't attack. This was because he knew who Han Fei was and that the demon purification pot was with him. Before seeing Han Fei's real strength, or rather, before the power of the demon purification pot was exhausted, he wouldn't attack. Han Fei knew this too, so he wasn't afraid at all. Even if there was a row of doomsday-level cultivators standing opposite him, he wouldn't be afraid. When Han Fei entered the battlefield, the ominous creatures that were about to besiege the other great monarchs and ancient creatures all stopped fighting and rushed towards Han Fei. In the blink of an eye, more than 100,000 ominous creatures besieged Han Fei. These 100,000 ominous creatures were not low-level ominous creatures. Their strength was at least at the terrifying level, and most of them were at the destruction level. Even the number of the world-ending level ones exceeded 3,000. What's going on? Look, there are still a large number of destruction-level ominous creatures surging over. Some people still didn't know what Han Fei's attack meant. They were shocked. Han Fei fought hundreds of thousands of ominous creatures alone. What was the difference between this and fighting hundreds of thousands of monarchs alone? Puff, puff, puff. Although the life law chains were powerful, those below the world-ending level had no chance to fight back. However, no matter how strong they were, they couldn't resist so many people. Besides, this time, not only were there destruction-level ominous creatures, but there were also dozens of world-ending creatures. The doomsday-level ominous creature was sure that no matter how strong Han Fei was, under the interference of dozens of world-ending level ominous creatures, he had to use the power of the demon purification pot. However, Han Fei, who was surrounded, held the blood sky blade in his hand and slashed out the immortal slaying knife. 17 streaks of light intertwined in the void, and the 17 world-ending level powerhouses mixed in the army of ominous creatures were all crushed by the knife and purified into nothingness. Huh. In the rear, the goddess was slightly depressed. Has he become so much stronger? The god of the Time Temple also frowned slightly. Although the combat power of the world-ending level ominous was not as good as that of ordinary great monarchs, it was a little unusual to kill 17 in a row. At this moment, Han Fei didn't even use the demon purification pot, nor did he activate his secret technique. Those who had doubted Han Fei were all surprised. So strong. What a fast blade. Why can't the ominous creatures he killed regather their ominous bodies? A great monarch who knew Han Fei sneered. What do you know? Human Emperor Han Fei is a disciple of the Void Temple, the owner of the demon purification pot, and the guardian of the divine prison in the creation divine prison. He came to clear the rankings 300 years ago and almost entered the top 10 of the primordial tower. In the end, he was defeated by the doomsday level ominous creatures. Today, he must have the confidence to resist the doomsday level ominous. What? A disciple of the Void Temple? He even fought a doomsday level ominous creature one-on-one? Demon purification pot? Yes, there are indeed rumors that the demon purification pot has appeared. I thought it was fake. So it's this person? Everyone in the rear was discussing, but Han Fei laughed out loud. You think you can distract me with just a few world-ending level cultivators? Are you stupid or what? Puff. 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 Han Fei drew his broadsword faster and faster. In the blink of an eye, 1,000 broadswords swept across and killed all the ominous creatures that approached. In just a moment, more than 5,000 of the 100,000 ominous creatures had been killed by the immortal slaying knife and the life law chains. Furthermore, this number was still increasing. At this moment, an doomsday-level ominous creature drilled out of the ominous mist. Han Fei wasn't sure if it was the one he fought last time, but only 2 had come now, which was still not enough. At least 3 had come before he had a chance to surpass Li Daoi's record. Instead of retreating, Han Fei advanced. Although he was surrounded by hundreds of thousands of ominous creatures, he still stepped into the void. Step by step and walked straight to the cliff. While walking, Han Fei shouted, "Aren't you two going to take action? If you don't, I'll cut off the ominous passage, connecting the 2 sides of the star. See broken cliff." In the rear, a few more gods appeared beside the goddess, one of whom was the one who met Han Fei in the Guardian City. The goddess said, "As long as the demon purification pot doesn't appear, doomsday-level cultivators won't dare to approach him. Those below the world-ending level can't shake him at all. It seems that he has indeed come prepared. This time, forcing the other party to either release the world-ending level or give up the ominous channel. Yes. I only let him come because of this. If he can cut off even one ominous channel, it will greatly relieve the pressure on the Guardian Sea. Unless the other party's god-slaying level powerhouses take action." Han Fei's purpose this time was very clear. He was here to clear the rankings. Not to harvest energy crystals, nor to kill for the distanceless gate to see. Li Daoi's record was not just difficult to break. This was because once he killed a large number of world-ending level powerhouses, doomsday level powerhouses would inevitably appear. In the face of him, the ominous wouldn't stupidly release the world-ending level ominous creatures for the demon purification pot to kill. Therefore, even if Han Fei was at the peak of the extreme Dao, he didn't come to clear the list because he knew that without absolute strength, he couldn't force the ominous to release the world-ending level ominous creatures at all. They would only release a massive number of destruction-level ominous creatures to consume him. This painstaking cultivation was already the limit he could reach over the years. It could be said that he had never cultivated in seclusion for so long. At this moment, Han Fei didn't believe that anyone could grow faster than him. Now, the 2 doomsday-level powerhouses were in a dilemma. This was because Han Fei's combat power had completely exceeded the concept of peak-level extreme Dao. Besides, the strong masters of the myriad races were stronger than ominous creatures of the same level. Therefore, in terms of basic combat power, Han Fei could barely resist doomsday-level ominous creatures at this moment. At this moment, hundreds of thousands of destruction-level ominous creatures were attacking the void where Han Fei was, but the more there were, the more destructive the chains of the law of life would be. Besides, under the immortal slaying knife, no ominous creature could withstand the power of a single slash unless a god appeared. The 2 doomsday-level powerhouses seemed to have made a decision. More than 300 world-ending level powerhouses rushed at Han Fei like moths to a flame. Faced with 300 ominous creatures at once, even if Han Fei's current combat power was extremely strong, it was impossible for him to kill them in an instant unless he took out the demon purification pot. Han Fei's heart stirred. Could it be that the other party had thought it through? If they wanted to consume him, they had to use the world-ending level. Ominous creatures? Swish. 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 The demon purification pot was immediately taken out. 300 world-ending level cultivators was a big piece of meat. Of course, he wouldn't let it go. Of course, if the world-ending level and the destruction level ominous creatures attacked at the same time, it was impossible for the demon purification pot to only kill the world-ending level ominous creatures. The world-ending level ominous creatures were fast and had a certain chance to avoid the demon purification pot's attack. Therefore, when the demon purification pot attacked, Han Fei held the blood sky blade to prevent anyone from escaping. Puff. 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 In an instant, more than 100 world-ending level ominous creatures were pierced through. Han Fei thought to himself, as long as these things get close, they won't be able to escape. However, before he could be happy, he perceived that most of the ominous creatures that were besieging him had retreated the moment the world-ending level powerhouses rushed up. What's going on? Puff. 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 The demon purification pot was still piercing through these world-ending level powerhouses. Han Fei didn't idle either. He slashed out the immortal slaying knife one after another. He realized that something was wrong. These world-ending level powerhouses were trying to hold him up with a suicide charge. Boom boom boom. The moment several world-ending level explosions occurred, Han Fei realized that something was wrong. Before he could activate the Thousand Thunder Flash. At that moment, more than 50,000 ominous creatures detonated themselves at the same time. The scene was spectacular. The void within tens of millions of kilometers collapsed, and endless ominous mist enveloped the void where Han Fei was. Not good. Xiao Xiaochan and the others were all shocked, and even all the gods here were shocked. They never expected that in order to kill Han Fei, the ominous would use 300 destruction-level ominous creatures as bait and 50,000 destruction-level and terrifying-level ominous creatures to blow themselves up to kill the enemy. The great monarchs who were watching the battle were deeply shocked. What was going on? Were these ominous creatures crazy? It's over. The entire void has collapsed. The ominous aura covers the entire area. How can we survive? The human emperor is doomed. The demon purification pot doesn't seem to be a defensive treasure, right? Even a god can't resist such an impact, right? What a pity. I told him that the ominous was crazy this time, but the human emperor still came to clear the rankings. Now, the ominous has gone crazy. He won't be able to clear the rankings anymore. Shut up. What do you know? He won't die. Xiao Xiaochan scolded and glared at the sighing great monarchs. Lu Renquang also shouted, "Don't talk nonsense." Zhang Xuanyu and Luo Xiaobai also glanced at these people coldly. Someone was unhappy and was about to scold them, but in the next moment, everyone's eyes were immediately attracted by the ominous mist. Rumble. Rumble. Tens of millions of kilometers in the sky bathed in lightning and fire, and countless places were burnt through. Although the void collapsed, the void turbulence didn't seem to be able to sweep Han Fei in. His voice was cold and low. How bold. I thought you had figured it out. Bang. A huge hand was bathed in lightning and fire, tearing open an ominous mist. A 330,000-foot-long Dharma idol stood above the ominous mist, in the void. Turbulence. Hanfei was bathed in golden light, and the wheel of life behind him slowly spun, letting the ominous mist be burned by the lightning fire and minced by the void turbulence. Hanfei stood still. I knew you would be fine. Xiao Xiaochan raised her hand and shouted. Huff. Luo Xiaobai and the other two were also relieved. Zhang Xuanyu said, it's always like this. It scares me. Lu Renquang said, my heart almost stopped. Luo Xiaobai only calmed down slightly, wondering what method Hanfei had used. Was it related to his Dharma idol, the wheel of law behind him, or the art of invincibility? He's still alive? How did he survive? His law doesn't seem to be afraid of the ominous aura at all. The surrounding great monarchs were also dumbfounded. This guy was still alive. Under such a terrifying power that could even kill a god? Not only was he still alive, but he was also fine, almost unscathed. The two doomsday-level powerhouses on the opposite side were also a little stunned. He was still alive? How could he still be alive? Hanfei was very angry. He had thought that he had the other party under control, but he didn't expect these ominous creatures to be so ruthless as to try to die together with him. Fortunately, he had the invincible state of the great Tao of life replacement, and had mastered the law of life. Otherwise, he would have died. Hanfei smiled coldly. Do you want to do it again? I'll stand still. One of the doomsday-level ominous creature's eyes were cold as he thought to himself, if this method works, I'll have to sacrifice a lot of our soldiers. Hanfei didn't give them much time to consider. He dispersed his Dharma idol and forcibly broke free from the void turbulence. The chaotic void law swept around him, but they could only leave shallow white marks on him. It could be seen that the void turbulence formed by the explosion of these ominous creatures was not enough to hurt his body. Forcibly breaking through this place, Hanfei went straight to the Star Sea Broken Cliff. On the Star Sea Broken Cliff, there were 3 ominous passages that connected to the Guardian Sea. Once one of them collapsed, the pressure on the Guardian Sea would be reduced by 30%. At that time, even without the Time Temple taking action, they might be able to resist the ominous invasion. Of course, the 2 doomsday-level ominous creatures certainly wouldn't let Hanfei kill his way to the ominous passage. At this moment, another huge head poked out of the ominous passage. Obviously, the ominous creatures realized that only 2 doomsday-level ominous creatures might not be enough. At this moment, the 3 doomsday-level powerhouses were respectively guarding the 3 ominous passages. Seeing this, Hanfei sneered. Who are you trying to fool? Since he witnessed the battle on the dragon battlefield, he knew that there were definitely more than 3 doomsday-level ominous creatures behind the ominous mist on such a large battlefield. Otherwise, why would the Guardian City need 7 gods to guard it? However, no matter how many doomsday-level powerhouses came, would you dare to attack? Hanfei looked disdainful and charged into the encirclement of the ominous creatures again. However, this time, those ominous creatures didn't besiege him. Instead, thousands of world-ending level ominous creatures surged out. One of the doomsday-level ominous creatures said, Human Emperor Hanfei, if you take another step forward, it will be regarded as the Guardian Sea officially starting a large-scale divine war. Another doomsday-level ominous creature also spoke, but not to Han Fei, but to the strong masters of the sea realm who were watching the battle behind. Once the battle starts, you may all be killed here. Do you really want to die for this person? However, this time everyone's opinion was abnormally uniform. A great monarch said, "I've been fighting on the battlefields in the Sea of Stars for hundreds of thousands of years. Why would I be afraid of death?" A great monarch sneered. "The ominous has never won a war of gods. Do you have the qualifications to speak?" The goddess of the guardian city also said, "It's only Han Fei's battle now. If you want to turn this into a battle of gods, I have no objection." The god of the time temple frowned slightly. "The people of the void temple are all boorish. You're only a great monarch. What can you do? Can't you wait until you become a god before provoking the ominous?" However, he couldn't say that. The three temples were on the same side when it came to dealing with the ominous. If it really caused a war of the gods, he wouldn't stand by and do nothing. Seeing that the strong masters of the Guardian Sea were not afraid of fighting, the doomsday-level ominous creatures on the opposite side immediately made up their minds and shouted, "Kill." If the method of mutual destruction didn't work, they wouldn't mind sacrificing their soldiers. Although it wasn't easy for ominous creatures to give birth to intelligence, if they could take down Han Fei, the owner of the demon purification pot, all the sacrifices would be worth it. This time, seeing a large number of people surrounding him, Han Fei knew that the other party had finally made a choice. In that case, he naturally wouldn't flinch. Puff. 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 The demon purification pot attacked again, assisted by the life law chains and the immortal slaying knife. However, the doomsday-level ominous creatures on the opposite side were not stupid. Although they had asked the world-ending level ominous creatures to take action, they only attacked after hiding among the destruction level ominous creatures. In this way, Han Fei would be forced to attack the destruction level ones when he killed the world-ending level ominous creatures. Han Fei calculated. Every time he killed 40 or 50 destruction level ominous creatures, he would have to kill more than 1,000 destruction level ominous creatures. It wasn't that he couldn't control the demon purification pot, but that there were too many ominous creatures attacking him. There would always be fish that escaped the net. And once these fish got close, they would be killed by the demon purification pot indiscriminately. If he didn't use the demon purification pot, the other party would immediately send world-ending level powerhouses to exhaust him. After killing more than 500 world-ending level ominous creatures in a row, Han Fei found that he had killed more than 10,000 destruction level ominous creatures at the same time, which made him unhappy. If this went on, the demon purification pot wouldn't be able to kill 3,200 world-ending level ominous creatures as Li Daoi. This was because once the power of the demon purification pot was consumed, the other party's doomsday-level ominous creature would definitely attack. At that time, he wouldn't have a chance to attack the world-ending level ones. If he couldn't kill as many world-ending level powerhouses as Li Daoi, then he had to kill 4 doomsday-level ominous creatures to surpass him in ranking. Tweet. In the next moment, the Emperor Sparrow appeared in the sky after being summoned by Han Fei. So many? The Emperor Sparrow was speechless. As soon as he came out, he was faced with a dense mass of ominous creatures. How could he fight them? Han Fei said, "Assist me. If any fish below the world-ending level tries to enter the coverage of the demon purification pot, solve them." no problem. The Emperor Sparrow's strength had already exceeded the peak of the extreme. Tao. A mere 800 destruction-level ominous creatures were no match for him. Emperor Sparrow? If the 3 doomsday-level ominous creatures had faces, their expressions must be very ugly at this moment. In the ominous mist, a voice whispered, "The Emperor Sparrow has taken a human as his master?" The voice immediately spread out of the 3 passages. "Stop wasting time. Consume him with the lives of world-ending level soldiers. Today, this person must die." Hearing this, the 3 doomsday-level powerhouses all issued orders. Immediately, more than 3,000 world-ending level ominous creatures charged at Han Fei fearlessly. Seeing this, Han Fei was overjoyed. If he had known that the Emperor Sparrow was so reliable, he would have summoned him out earlier. Puff. 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 One world-ending level ominous creature after another was pierced through. 1,000, 2,000, 3,000. Ferocious God Valley, Primordial Tower. People still came and went here every day, and many people were queuing up to go to the ominous battlefield. Suddenly, when someone glanced at the ranking stone steel, he suddenly exclaimed, "Look, Han Fei's ranking has moved." He suddenly became 8th. How is it possible? Han Fei has disappeared for 300 years. If he went to the ominous battlefield, how could we not know? I'm telling the truth. Take a look if you don't believe me. Look. F***CK. More than 3,000 world-ending level ominous creatures have been killed by him? What happened? Why is Han Fei on the ominous battlefield? When did he go there? Oh my god, his world-ending level kills have already exceeded Li Daoi's. Instantly, exclamations were heard under the primordial tower. After only a moment, the entire ferocious God Valley knew that Han Fei had appeared and went to clear the rankings again. Waiting for someone tavern. Yulinka was also a little stunned. Han Fei had promised to return in 100 years at most, but he had been away for nearly 200 years. She had thought that something had happened to him, but when she heard his news again, it was from the stone steel of the primordial tower. Why did he go straight to the Guardian Sea? Why didn't he come to the ferocious God Valley first? Suddenly, Yulinka was refreshed. Han Fei suddenly broke into the primordial tower again, which meant that he was completely prepared. He didn't return before, probably because he didn't want to attract any attention. Today, he suddenly went to clear the rankings because he was confident that once he succeeded, it would be the time for the descendants of gods to appear again. Immediately, Yulinka shouted, "Everyone, leave the shop. From today on, our shop is closed for the time being." On the Star-Sea Broken Cliff. After fighting for more than an hour, the power of the demon purification pot was almost exhausted, including the world-ending level ominous creatures that had died before. Han Fei had killed a total of 4,212 world-ending level ones. As for the destruction level and terrifying level ominous creatures, Han Fei couldn't calculate them, because he didn't know how many of them had been killed by the explosion just now. But no matter how many of them had been killed just now, it didn't mean much to Han Fei. The ranking of the primordial tower was mainly based on the levels of the ominous creatures he killed. So far, if he guessed right, he should be ranked 8th. At this moment, the demon purification pot couldn't continue to fight because, with the demon purification pot's current speed, even if it could continue to attack, it wouldn't be able to touch them. However, more than 4,000 world-ending level ominous creatures had been Sacrificed. They didn't care if a few more were sacrificed. More than 300 world-ending level ominous creatures charged at Han Fei again. This time, Han Fei activated his original Great Dao. With the enhancement of double combat power, his combat power exceeded 360,000, almost keeping up with the minimum combat power of a god of 400,000. This combat power was 7 times stronger than the basic combat power of ordinary peak-level great monarchs. Han Fei, like a swimming dragon in the sea of stars, slashed out with the immortal slaying knife, and the power of the world was attracted by Han Fei. Puff. 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 Even if these world-ending level ominous creatures also controlled laws and had all kinds of strange divine techniques, they were all killed by a single slash. Besides, in addition to Han Fei, the Emperor Sparrow was also attacking. The Emperor Sparrow was not afraid of the ominous aura in the first place and didn't need any protection. With pecks of his claw and sweeps of his wings, not only could he kill the ominous, but he could also absorb some of the ominous aura. A man and a bird were fighting 300 world-ending level ominous creatures. It was a crushing battle. Everyone in the rear was shocked. Someone was shocked. The power of this space is completely controlled by him. This is no longer the combat power of the great monarch realm. Someone was shocked. Another great monarch that can fight a god? A god said, he's more than twice as strong as when he was in his peak state last time. This guy's growth speed is really shocking. However, if he wants to clear the rankings, he has to kill 3 doomsday-level ominous creatures. With his current strength, I'm afraid it's still not enough. Another person said indifferently, he can't come unprepared. Let's see what other trump cards he has. After Han Fei killed more than 200 world-ending level powerhouses in a row, finally a sharp claw broke through the power of the immortal slaying knife and slapped in front of Han Fei. Clang! However, Han Fei was not afraid at all. He drew his broadsword, activated the Law of Life, and activated the Ragnarok, cutting off half of the doomsday level ominous creature's palm. Han Fei sneered. You're finally willing to fight? The doomsday level creature roared, without the demon purification pot, no matter how strong you are still a great monarch. The half of the palm that was cut off by Han Fei returned to its original state in the blink of an eye. As for the doomsday-level ominous creature, it transformed into a spider crab. Its 10 long sharp claws, like 10 big spears, stabbed like streams of light, each blow carrying a void storm. Its speed was so fast that it struck 1,000 times in the blink of an eye. Han Fei abandoned his broadsword and punched out. There came one explosion after another in the sea of stars, shaking ripples that stacked thousands of times in an instant. Boom! 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 Bam! 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 The two of them fought fiercely for 100 seconds without giving in at all. Although Han Fei's current combat power was slightly weaker than the other parties, he was not afraid at all with the Law of Life surrounding him. Outside the arena, Zhang Xuanyu muttered, is the gap between great monarchs and immortals so huge? Xiao Xiaochan and the others hadn't become great monarchs yet, so they didn't know the real combat power of great monarchs. However, from the battle between Han Fei and the doomsday-level ominous creature, they could tell that even if they used all their strength, they couldn't resist a casual blow from Han Fei. Suddenly, Han Fei shouted in a low voice, fuse. Buzz. The number of times the Emperor Sparrow fused with Han Fei was limited. In the passed, after they fused, they could only increase Han Fei's combat power by 10 or 20% at most because the Emperor Sparrow's realm at that time was not high enough. But this time, the Emperor Sparrow had already surpassed the peak of the extreme Tao. After the fusion, Han Fei's strength immediately doubled. At that moment, Han Fei's combat power finally entered the God realm. When he fought again, the doomsday-level creature was shaken. Han Fei clasped the ominous creature's sharp claws with both hands, and the law of life burst out of his palm, instantly destroying the other party's entire sharp claw. After fusing with the Emperor Sparrow, Han Fei was not afraid of the ominous aura at all. Do you think you're a god just because of this? In that case, let me show you what the real ominous is. Whoosh! The ominous creature that had turned into a big crab opened its huge circular mouth, as if it could swallow an entire void. Its 9 sharp claws hugged the void, as if locking down that space. Seeing this, Han Fei smiled in disdain. You're right. I don't have divinity now. However, I do have a divine tribulation. Have a try. Han Fei held the void, and the Thunder God's hammer appeared. Although the Thunder God's hammer obtained from the Thunder Node Ancient Temple was only a mid-quality nature spiritual treasure, it had a characteristic. Its strongest killer move could unleash a heavenly tribulation of corresponding strength according to its master's strength. With Han Fei's current strength, he didn't know if the Thunder God's hammer could carry it. However, a mid-quality nature spiritual treasure was also a nature spiritual treasure. It shouldn't be so weak. A mid-quality nature spiritual treasure? When the doomsday-level ominous creature saw the Thunder God's hammer, he simply ignored it, thinking to himself, how can such a thing hurt me? As Han Fei jumped into the air, the power of heaven and earth gathered. The surging tribulation clouds condensed into a vast lightning bolt. This was a divine tribulation targeted at Han Fei, but Han Fei's strength had long exceeded the peak of the extreme Tao. How could this divine tribulation be? Simple? Rumble. The Thunder God's hammer shone with boundless brilliance and divine might, and purple-black lightning struck down. The doomsday-level ominous creature finally realized that something was wrong. It was just a mid-quality nature spiritual treasure. How could it unleash such power? Roar. The doomsday-level ominous creature roared non-stop. The power of lightning filled his body and purified a massive amount of ominous aura. Lightning had the ability to purify in the first place, so it was only natural that this doomsday-level ominous creature was seriously injured. At this moment, the other 2 doomsday-level ominous creatures attacked at the same time. One of them blasted out an ominous pillar, and the other spurted out dark Tao swords and attacked. On the Guardian Sea's side, a god said, should we take action? No. Wait, don't forget what he's here for. Since Han Fei was here to clear the list, he certainly had the confidence to clear the list. It was a must for him to fight 3 alone. Otherwise, how could he clear Li Daoi's list? Sure enough, at the moment when the 2 doomsday-level powerhouses attacked, Han Fei laughed. He activated his original Great Tao, increased his combat power by 5 times, and his strength immediately soared to 900,000 points. With the fusion of the Emperor Sparrow, his combat power directly broke through the 1,000,000 mark. Han Fei raised his hand, turned his fist into a palm, and pushed out, blocking the ominous pillar. On the other side, Han Fei's Dharma idol appeared again, and he clamped the dark Tao sword with 2 fingers. He had been waiting for this moment. He pretended and made the other party mistakenly think that his strength had just reached the god level, and under such circumstances, he would kill one first. At this moment, the other two doomsday-level ominous creatures attacked at the same time. Of course, he wouldn't let go of such a good opportunity. Puff, puff, puff. Hundreds of thousands of life law chains rose to the sky, stabbing the doomsday-level powerhouse, who was seriously injured by the divine tribulation, into a beehive. The river of life here had been cut off by Han Fei. No matter how powerful this doomsday-level powerhouse was, it was impossible for him to revive. All of this happened in a flash. 1 second ago, everyone was worried that two doomsday-level ominous creatures would attack at the same time. In the next second, Han Fei counterattacked and fought 3 doomsday-level powerhouses alone. A god breathed a sigh of relief. Sure enough, he still has a trump card, and it's quite extraordinary. The goddess smiled faintly. Otherwise, why would he come to clear the rankings at this time? The pupils of the god from the Time Temple were constricted. Could a great monarch be so strong now? Han Fei's sudden outburst made the 2 doomsday-level ominous creatures hesitate and immediately want to retreat for the time being. You come and go as you please? What do you take me for? Swish. With a flip of Han Fei's hand, the creation chessboard appeared in his palm. And 23 pieces were placed in a row. Buzz. 23 phantoms of gods appeared in a row, sealing this place. What? **T. What kind of spiritual treasure is this? It can summon so many projections of gods. If each of these projections can release a divine blow, how terrifying will it be? However, Han Fei didn't stop. He opened his mouth and spat out the dragon Blood Soul Pearl, which glowed brightly and was branded on his chest. Han Fei's strength soared again. This time, it was not as simple as 5 times his combat power. Han Fei felt that his flesh and blood were locked by a powerful force. As he activated his original Great Tao, 10 times his combat power was fully revealed. Slash. The blood sky blade emitted the most dazzling brilliance. He felt that he had returned to his peak state. He could have unleashed 3 times his combat power, but because Han Fei was too strong at this moment, he couldn't withstand the increase in strength. But even so, the blood sky blade had almost doubled its combat power. Pooh. 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 Activating the law of life, he slashed out with the power of heaven and earth. In this space, using the time arcane technique to split the immortal slaying knife into 2. With just 1 slash, Han Fei turned one of the doomsday-level ominous creatures into powder and killed it on the spot. After all, Han Fei's combat power at this moment was nearly 2 million. On the other side, 23 projections of gods launched 23 strikes in a row, which was not something an ominous creature could resist at all. He had tried it on the dragon battlefield. At that time, he faced 7 doomsday-level ominous creatures and killed 2 of them after consuming almost 12 divine phantoms. Therefore, theoretically speaking, 23 phantoms of gods should be able to kill at least 3 doomsday-level ominous creatures. At this moment, wouldn't it be easy to deal with one? At that moment, Lu Renkuang shouted, "He's about to clear the rankings." Zhang Xuanyu laughed. Yes, yes. However, at this critical moment, many giant claws extended out of the ominous mist. There was even a humanoid ominous creature that attacked in an instant. God-slaying level. On the Guardian Sea's side, the goddess scolded, "How dare a god-slaying level ominous creature meddle in the war of the great monarch realm?" However, the god-slaying level ominous creature didn't respond. Instead, it reached out and tore apart the two divine phantoms, about to take the doomsday-level ominous creature away. In the Guardian Sea, the goddess took action, and a sky-subduing jade ruler collided with the god-slaying level powerhouse in midair, forcing the god-slaying level powerhouse to give up on the doomsday-level ominous creature. However, Han Fei sneered and said in a high voice, "I had long guessed that someone would ruin my plan. However, you're just at the god-slaying level. Who gave you the courage? Kill." Smack. On the creation chessboard, the 24th piece fell. It was an arrow. What else could it be but the god-slaying arrow? Han Fei used the void as a bow and drew it with his bare hands. With a swoosh, the arrow was like thunder, instantly locking the god-slaying level ominous creature. Seeing this arrow, even the goddess stopped in shock. How could this blow be so powerful? No matter how many methods a great monarch had, how could he unleash the power of the god-slaying level? You. Pfft. Before the god-slaying level ominous creature could react, it was pierced through by Han Fei's arrow on the spot. The ominous aura dissipated and it died on the spot. Chen Lingsu was a god-slaying level powerhouse in the first place. The arrow left on the creation chessboard couldn't be considered an ordinary blow of a god. After being strengthened by the killing piece, its power was 3 times that of a god. As soon as the god-slaying level powerhouse died, the remaining 21 divine phantoms killed the doomsday-level ominous creature, who was almost taken away in the blink of an eye. How dare you, human emperor? Your actions may lead to the destruction of the Guardian Sea. 12 doomsday-level ominous creatures crawled out of the ominous mist one after another. In the ominous mist, voices came out, furious. Han Fei roared, "Shut up! Who do you think you are? How dare you speak so arrogantly here? Destroy the Guardian Sea? If we can kill a dominator of yours on the dragon battlefield, so can we in the Guardian Sea. Kill a dominator?" The gods here were all dumbfounded. Which side had killed a dominator? Where was the dragon battlefield? Zhang Xuanyu and the others jumped up and shouted, "Fei Fei, kill them, kill them." For them, after this success, the layout of the sea realm would be rewritten. So they were naturally overjoyed. In the ominous mist, the voice stopped. On the dragon battlefield, the ominous had indeed suffered heavy losses. Now that Han Fei had come to the Guardian Sea, he really couldn't take the risk. After all, this was not the real final battle. Seeing that the other party hesitated for a moment, Han Fei was relieved. He shouted, "If you want me to stop, give up an ominous passage. Otherwise, I'll kill my way through these 3 passages today." With that, Han Fei looked back at the gods of the Guardian Sea. "Seniors, please attack together with me. Even if the heavens come today, I can cover for you." The goddess' heart stirred. It didn't matter if Han Fei was bluffing or not. But as long as they could destroy an ominous passage, it was indeed worth the risk. She immediately shouted, "Kill." As the goddess spoke, the 7 gods of the Guardian Sea, a god of the time, temple, and Han Fei were equivalent to 9 gods. If Han Fei guessed right, the strength of the goddess seemed to be extraordinary. She was probably at the god-slaying level. In that case, the combat power of the Guardian Sea was not weak at all. If the other party only had 12 doomsday-level powerhouses, they could easily kill them. Han Fei's strength exploded at this moment, and he and the goddess were the first to rush to one of the ominous passages. And the 3 doomsday-level ominous creatures guarding in front of the passage retreated to the other 2 passages. In the next moment, without Han Fei and the others taking action, the mist at the front of the passage dissipated, and the ominous passage shrank into the star-sea broken cliff. Huh! Han Fei was stunned. He had thought that he would have to fight no matter what. He had even been prepared for the other party to send out 2 god-slaying level powerhouses, but the ominous retreated and cut off a passage. The goddess of the Guardian City was also slightly stunned. Judging from the ominous madness over the years, they had no reason to compromise with Han Fei. A voice came from the remaining 2 ominous passages. Human Emperor Han Fei. I'll remember you. Let's wait and see. Han Fei narrowed his eyes slightly. Aren't you afraid that I'll cut off your remaining 2 passages? The voice sounded again, you can try. Although I know you're bluffing, I know. You do have the ability to bluff for the time being. Therefore, I'll surrender 1 passage. But if you really want to start a war, I'm not afraid. Han Fei chuckled. At least you know your limits. Since you're sensible. That's it for today. However, the voice snorted and sounded again, there's no next time. If you come again, I'll definitely kill you. As soon as he said so, 21 black cones shot out of the ominous mist, so fast that Han Fei couldn't react in time. Bang! 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 The 21 phantoms of gods exploded at the same time. The moment this scene erupted, all the gods in the Guardian Sea were shocked. Han Fei's pupils were constricted. A godslayer, or a dominator? The other party came too fast. Although the power of the divine phantoms was limited, they couldn't be destroyed easily. Only strong masters of the sea quelling divine level and the dominator level could do this. Humph. Do you think I'm afraid of you? If you have balls, come out. Don't hide inside. What's the big deal of defeating a few projections of gods? When I become a god in the future, I'll definitely come to challenge you. Han Fei said arrogantly, but he didn't intend to fight anymore. It wasn't just because of the strength of the one in the ominous mist. In fact, that ominous creature was right. He was indeed bluffing. Although he did have another void mark to use, his goal of clearing the rankings had been achieved. He had no reason to use this void mark here. Besides, even if they destroyed this ominous battlefield, there were still 1,079 ominous battlefields. It was meaningless to the general situation of the ominous counterattack. Besides, in addition to being a battlefield, the Guardian Sea was also a place for countless people to gain experience. At least, many people in the ferocious God Valley relied on this ominous battlefield for a living. If it was really completely wiped out, it wouldn't do any good to the ferocious God Valley or the Guardian Sea, so only fools would fight. The gods of the Guardian Sea were speechless. Are you kidding me? They had never seen the ominous take the initiative to compromise with the myriad races. Why did they compromise this time? However, this was not the time to talk about this. The goddess shouted in a low voice, everyone, retreat to the Skynet barrier. Since there was one less ominous passage, the pressure on the Guardian Sea was greatly reduced. Besides, the ominous had suffered such heavy losses, this time, so it was almost impossible for them to recover in the short term. It was definitely not a good choice to fight the one inside the ominous mist. At this moment, Hanfei glanced at the god of the time temple and said calmly, "Our void temple won't get involved in the matter of the ominous battlefield." "Thank you, fellow Taoists from the time temple." Hanfei only called them fellow Taoists, not seniors, because he was speaking on behalf of the Void Temple. At the same time, it was telling the Time Temple that since they had taken on the job of blocking the ominous, no matter how strong the enemy was, they had to defend against them. The god of the Time Temple snorted. "Human Emperor, you don't have to worry. By the way, you'd better not take action before you grow up." Hanfei ignored them. His figure flashed and he came to Xia Shaochan and the others. Then, he looked at the goddess of the Guardian Sea and the gods he had seen before and nodded slightly. "Seniors, my matter has been resolved." "Thank you." The goddess nodded slightly. "In that case, Human Emperor, please help yourself." In the next moment, Hanfei, Xia Shaochan, and the others' wrists flashed, and their figures were pulled back to the primordial tower by an invisible force. A moment ago, in front of the ranking stone stele of the primordial tower, when everyone saw that Hanfei's battle record stagnated at the 4,328 world ending level ominous creatures, they certainly knew that Hanfei had encountered a doomsday level ominous creature. Someone sighed. "Although I don't know Human Emperor's current strength, a doomsday level ominous creature is equivalent to a god. I wonder if Human Emperor can succeed." Someone sighed. "Even if he succeeds and can kill one, it will be difficult for him to clear the rankings. He will probably fall to second place." Everyone stared at the ranking stone stele and waited. Suddenly, a doomsday level ominous creature popped up in Hanfei's kill count. As this data appeared, Hanfei's ranking jumped to second place. "Look, Hanfei killed a god. He did it. As expected of the Human Emperor. It's only been 300 years, but he has really killed a doomsday-level ominous creature. Will the record be broken this time?" Buzz. Before anyone had the time to discuss it, the number of the doomsday level ominous creatures on the stone stele had become 2. Hiss. So fast. The second one so soon? Could there be a mistake with the ranking stone stele? That's bull's asterisk it. When has the primordial tower ever made a mistake? But this doesn't make sense. Could it be that Hanfei has killed 2 doomsday-level ominous creatures alone? Buzz. While everyone was exclaiming, suddenly, almost everyone in the entire primordial tower held their breath. This was because they saw that on the stele, in Hanfei's battle record, there was an additional god-slaying level ominous creature. At the same time, his ranking soared to first place, breaking the record of the primordial tower. How strong is this Human Emperor? How can he even kill a god-slaying level ominous creature? Someone looked puzzled. What is a god-slaying level ominous creature? Why? Have I never heard of it? Someone sighed. Not to mention you, most people have never heard of it. The god-slaying level is above the god level. It's said that one step up is the legendary sea-quelling god level? Is there really a sea-quelling god? How ignorant. Would the sea-quelling god tell you that he is a sea-quelling god? Since such an existence is recorded in ancient books, he must exist. That's right. We don't know because we're not qualified to know yet. Look, Hanfei killed another doomsday-level ominous creature. Crazy, is the battle in the Guardian Sea so crazy? So many powerful enemies appeared at once? How strong is Han Fei? How can he kill so many strong masters? He has definitely become a god. It's impossible for a great monarch to be so strong. I've never heard that a god's kill count will be displayed on the ranking. Stone Steel. Buzz. Everyone began to discuss heatedly. At this moment, Yulinka and Chu Hao were sitting alone and waiting for someone tavern. The two of them looked at each other. He made it. Swish, swish. Xia Xiaochan and the others appeared in the primordial tower, but Han Fei was nowhere to be seen. Huh? Where is he? Luo Xiaobai said, don't worry. Let's go first. Don't forget, he defeatedly. Dowie. He deserves a chance to use the primordial tower. As Luo Xiaobai expected, as soon as Han Fei appeared, he appeared on the top of the primordial tower. There was nothing special on the top of the tower, except for a floating stone slab and some simple tables and chairs. It looked like a sightseeing place. He could even look down at many prosperous places in the ferocious God Valley from the tower. I didn't expect you to defeat Li Dowie in just 2 rounds. As expected of the successor of the demon purification pot. Han Fei suddenly turned around. He had just scanned this place and didn't find anyone here, but when he saw a figure walking out of a hanging painting in the tower, he couldn't help being surprised. This painting was probably not simple. The painting was a map of the ferocious God Valley. It was very detailed and reminded Han Fei of the sea-quelling painting. Senior Bandit God? There was only one person in the entire ferocious God Valley whom his perception couldn't detect at all, and that was the Bandit God. However, Han Fei was curious. If the Bandit God could appear here, wouldn't he be able to control the primordial tower at any time? This figure walked out. He looked ordinary, like a middle-aged man who had been struggling for a living for many years. His skin was a little dark, his hair was slightly messy, and he looked a little travel-worn. The middle-aged man waved his hand slightly. Don't stand on ceremony. I didn't expect you to break Li Dowie's record so quickly. I'm a little curious. You attacked so wantonly, but didn't attract a dominator. Han Fei sighed. I might have attracted the attention of a dominator, but the other party didn't take action. The Bandit God said lazily, he won't take action at this time. With the time Temple and you, a disciple of the Void Temple, both here, the ominous surely won't take this risk if it is not stupid. Han Fei nodded slightly. He understood what the Bandit God said. What he was curious about now was why the Bandit God was here. Senior Bandit God, is this primordial tower under your control? How is that possible? This time, it was not the Bandit God speaking, but a voice that naturally sounded from the tower. The voice continued, I won't be controlled by anyone. I'm just a little bored. The Bandit God spread his hands. Well, I'm just here to chat with him. If you can stay in the ferocious God Valley for a long time, you can come often. Han Fei was lost for words. Damn, the primordial tower could talk? The primordial tower said, it can't be helped. Few people can clear the rankings. Human Emperor Han Fei, congratulations on breaking Li Dowie's record. Now, I can help you unconditionally once. However, it's only this once, and only in the West Wilderness. Han Fei said, that's easy. You should know my purpose. I'd like to ask you to Protect the descendants of gods at the right time. But before that, I have a question. Who is Li Daoyi? He's just a person. Li Daoyi was a strong master who lived from the chaotic era to the age of gods. Later, he went to the end of the Sea of Stars and never came back. By the way, he's not the owner of the demon purification pot. But he once obtained the demon purification pot. A person from the chaotic era? Han Fei couldn't help but ask, then the record of the primordial tower. It was filled casually. The primordial tower said, he filled in the records randomly. In his words, he has to give future generations a goal. Well. Suddenly, Han Fei thought of something. Did he cut the star sea broken cliff? The primordial tower, who else could it be? Han Fei couldn't help but smile bitterly. He knew that Li Daoyi wasn't simple. It turned out that he was even more powerful than he had imagined. How could a person who could easily cut open the star sea broken cliff only have such a level of battle record? Han Fei couldn't help being curious. What's at the end of the Sea of Stars? This time, the bandit god said, as a disciple of the Void Temple, you should know better what's there. If you don't know, we naturally don't know either. We only know that no one who went there returned alive, be it a god, slayer, or a dominator. Han Fei shrugged slightly. Obviously, senior sister Shenlu and the others didn't intend to tell them about this at all for the time being. The primordial tower said, Human Emperor Han Fei, I can help you protect the divine descendants, but there are some things I have to tell you in advance. If the other party mobilizes a dominator, I won't be able to resist it. If it's just a dominator-level method, I can block it. However, I don't think it's that simple. Han Fei raised his eyebrows. Why? The primordial tower said, I've lived for countless eras in the West wilderness, theoretically speaking, no one can break through my protection. However, I can't guarantee it. The Central Sea Divine Realm used to be the main battlefield. Too many strong masters gathered there and left too many treasures there. I don't know if any of them can resist me. The bandit god also said, I don't think it's right either. Since the appearance of the divine descendants, the Central Sea Divine Realm has been too quiet. They did nothing more than threatening the West Wilderness with force and sending some people to wander around the West Wilderness. There's no real big move at all. This doesn't make sense. Han Fei's heart sank. So, the Central Sea Divine Realm must have other plans? The bandit god laughed. Not necessarily. What if they really can't do anything? After all, there aren't many real strong masters in the Sea Realm. And the other places of the Sea of Stars won't allow many existences who can break the taboo to exist in the Sea Realm. Han Fei shook his head. The more unlikely something is going to happen, the more likely it will happen. It's impossible that the strong masters of the Central Sea Divine Realm really do nothing. They know that the revival of the divine descendants means the beginning of revenge. How can they sit by and watch me unseal the bloodline of the divine descendants? Han Fei frowned slightly. Seniors, I'll take my leave first. I have to go back and discuss this matter. I wonder, if I really go to the place of the divine descendants, how can I use the power of the primordial tower? Buzz. The floating stone slab floated to Han Fei and the primordial tower said, This thing can only be activated once. Once it's activated, I can arrive anywhere in the West Wilderness in an instant. No one can be faster than me. Han Fei took the stone slab and then looked at the bandit god. Well, Senior. Bandit god take action? The bandit god smiled and said, haven't I already taken action? Han Fei cupped his hands. I'll take my leave first. In the primordial tower, when Han Fei appeared, he found that the tower had been solidly surrounded by 3 layers inside and 3 layers outside. When Han Fei appeared, someone immediately exclaimed, look, it's human. Emperor. Human Emperor, I'm willing to follow you. Master Human Emperor, have you already become a god? Master Human Emperor, I have a beautiful daughter. Han Fei, have sex with me if you have the ability. I won't bother you after this. F***ck. Han Fei was speechless. He glanced at the ranking stone stele and then disappeared from the primordial tower. On the stone stele, the battle record showed 1 god slaying level, 3. Doomsday level, 4,328 world-ending level, and 78,081 destruction level ominous creatures. Although the number of destruction level ominous creatures didn't exceed 200,000, under such circumstances, he didn't have the time to kill destruction level ominous creatures. Besides, a god-slaying level ominous creature was more important than any number of destruction level ominous creatures. Now, there was no telling how long this battle record would hang on the primordial tower, if the Guardian Sea still existed in the future. Waiting for someone tavern. This place was also surrounded by people, but the shop had been closed, so these people couldn't enter. As for forcing their way in, it was impossible. With Yulinka's strength, very few people could break into the shop. When Han Fei came back, Xia Xiaochan and the others were already in the shop. You're back. Can you control the primordial tower now? Xia Xiaochan asked first. Han Fei raised the stone slab in his hand and said, I only have 1 chance. With that, Han Fei looked at Yulinka and said, Sister-in-law, do you think the Central Sea Divine Realm has any means to suppress the descendants of gods when they know that we are protected by the primordial tower? When Chu Hao heard this, he couldn't help but ask, what do you mean? Yulinka frowned slightly. Theoretically speaking, no. In the West wilderness, there is no existence that can suppress the primordial tower. This is because the primordial tower is closely connected to this primordial land. If one wants to shake the primordial tower, he has to cut the entire West wilderness out of the sea realm. It's impossible for those people from the Central Sea Divine Realm to do that. Han Fei asked, is there a Dominator-level powerhouse in the Central Sea Divine Realm? Yulinka continued to shake her head. That's impossible. There aren't many Dominators in the entire Sea of Stars. Even if there is really such a person, do you think he will stay in the Sea Realm? Why would he stay here? Han Fei asked, then do you think our trip will be blocked? Yulinka was silent for a moment. Logically speaking, the Central Sea Divine Realm won't easily let us off. They will definitely take action to stop us, but what can they do to us in the West Wilderness? Luo Xiaobai suddenly said, what if not in the West Wilderness? Not in the West Wilderness? Everyone couldn't help but look at Luo Xiaobai, who said, what will the first thing a divine descendant do after he recovers his bloodline? Chu Hao said, of course to make a breakthrough. They had been suppressed in the great monarch realm for too long. Logically speaking, they should have had the ability to make a breakthrough, but their bloodlines were incomplete. Luo Xiaobai asked again, where can he make a breakthrough? Han Fei, Yulinka, and Chu Hao were all briefly stunned. Han Fei couldn't help but ask, that's impossible, right? Even if the divine descendants want to make a breakthrough, they must enter the sea of stars. Outside their origin stars. This vast sea of stars is infinite. Can those people from the central sea divine realm go to the sea of stars to snipe them? Suddenly, Chu Hao and Yulinka were both a little stunned. Then, Yulinka said, "It's not impossible." Huh? This time it was Han Fei and the others turned to be dumbfounded. Could they find the divine descendants in the sea of stars? Yulinka said, "If there's one thing in the central sea divine realm that can do this, it's the boundary map of the sea of stars of the west wilderness." Boundary map of the sea of stars? Han Fei's heart stirred. He had the boundary map of the sea of stars. Back then, the sea-quelling painting of the 36 mystic worlds combined to form a boundary map of the sea of stars. This painting was the corresponding part of the central sea divine realm in the sea of stars. There might be an origin ground hidden in it, but he didn't go to the central sea divine realm, so he had never used this painting. With a wave of Han Fei's hand, the boundary map of the sea of stars appeared. Han Fei asked, "Is that it?" Everyone widened their eyes, and Zhang Xuanyu was lost for words. "You even have this?" Han Fei said, "This is the sea-quelling painting." The sea-quelling paintings of the 36 mystic worlds became this when it was combined. Yulinka said, "Let me take a look at this map." Before Yulinka could take it, Chu Hao shook his head and said, "This map doesn't work. I got this map, by the way, when I obtained the demon purification pot. It only maps a part of the corresponding section of the central sea divine realm in the sea of stars." Yulinka asked, "Why didn't you tell me earlier?" Chu Hao shrugged. "What's the use of telling you earlier? Do we fight our way over, or can anyone go to the central sea divine realm?" Han Fei was puzzled. "If that doesn't work, what is the boundary map of the sea of stars of the west wilderness, which you mentioned, like?" Chu Hao said, "The boundary map of the sea of stars we're talking about refers to the corresponding boundary map of the sea of stars of the entire west wilderness. It's said that in the primordial era, a powerful figure explored the mysteries of the primordial land and the origin stars, so he traveled through the mountains and rivers and explored the chaos of the sea of stars. In the end, he drew an extremely grand boundary map of the sea of stars. This map covered the entire primordial land. Later, because of the ominous attack, the strong masters of the myriad races needed to use this map to quickly go to some places in the sea of stars, so this map was divided into many pieces. It was controlled by the strong masters of the myriad races. Later, the myriad races withered, and the boundary map of the sea of stars of various sizes scattered in the sea of stars, making it difficult to find. Therefore, future generations tried to draw the sea of stars again and reset the boundary map of the sea of stars. But not long after they did this, the primordial land was shattered. After that, no one drew this map again. Han Fei raised his eyebrows. "Since it has long been lost, can the central sea divine realm still find it?" Yulinka said, "Logically speaking, it's impossible to find them. Countless races were destroyed in the primordial era. God knows where their parts of the boundary map of the sea of stars is." Suddenly, Yulinka perked up. "I see." Everyone looked at Yulinka, who looked awful. "I see. In the past hundreds of thousands of years, the central sea divine realm has searched all over the west wilderness. It seems that they are looking for the whereabouts of the divine descendants, but in fact, this is just their cover. Their real purpose is to measure the land of the West Wilderness and redraw the boundary map of the Sea of Stars of the West Wilderness. Ulinka suddenly stood up and said solemnly, 100,000 years. They spent 100,000 years redrawing the boundary map of the Sea of Stars. Chu Hao also looked solemn. Those who can draw the boundary map of the Sea of Stars should be at least at the god-slaying level, right? Ulinka said, no, the boundary map of the Sea of Stars is not something profound. You can use the West Wilderness as a node. After entering the Sea of Stars, you just need to spread your perception, mark those spatial nodes, and draw a map. Not to mention gods, even great monarchs can draw it. It's just that the speed of drawing is different because of the difference in perception range. Chu Hao said, if that's the case, wouldn't the Central Sea Divine Realm have waited for this day for 100,000 years? Ulinka frowned slightly. The Sea of Stars is so big. Even a great monarch might not be able to finish walking it in only 100,000 years. How can it be possible for them to draw the boundary map of the Sea of Stars of the West Wilderness? Even if multiple gods take action together, it will be extremely difficult. Han Fei asked, wait, why don't I understand your meaning? So, the Central Sea Divine Realm does have this boundary map of the Sea of Stars, right? Ulinka said, there might be, but it shouldn't be complete. Because it's too difficult, we haven't thought in this direction at all. But even if it's incomplete, it's still a huge threat. The divine descendants have lived in the primordial ancient land of the West Wilderness for generations. Our origin stars must also be within the Sea of Stars boundary, corresponding to the West Wilderness. Even if the world changes, their locations won't change. Therefore, once we transcend the divine tribulation in the Sea of Stars, it can be seen on the boundary map of the Sea of Stars. At that time, as long as they find the places where strange astronomical phenomena appear on the boundary map of the Sea of Stars, they can go straight to our origin stars and stop us from transcending tribulations. Lu Renquang said, isn't it simple? Anyway, the divine descendants haven't become gods yet. Can't they just go to the Sea of Stars to transcend the tribulation through others' origin stars, such as Feifei's origin star? No. Chu Hao said in a slightly hoarse voice, divine tribulations are different from other heavenly tribulations. Divine tribulations involve condensing divine persona. No matter where we transcend the divine tribulation, our origin stars will react. We can leave, but we can't take our origin stars away. Unless we refine our origin stars and take them out of the West Wilderness. But refining our origin stars is tantamount to killing the goose that lays the golden eggs. Although we can temporarily strengthen ourselves, it limits our room for subsequent improvement. It can be said that if we refine our origin stars, I'm afraid we won't be able to reach the god-slaying level in our entire lives. Even if we become gods, we won't be able to reach the peak of the god realm. And once we can't reach the god-slaying level, no matter how strong we are, we will never be able to challenge the peak powerhouses of the Central Sea Divine Realm. Just as Ulinka and Chu Hao looked solemn and their minds were in a mess, Luo Xiaobai said indifferently, Han Fei has already helped you a lot. If you want to restore your bloodline problem, you have to pay some price. For example, let some people become gods first. The divine descendants have been lying low for so long. There should be many people stuck at the peak of the great monarch realm, right? Waiting for someone. Tavern. Among the 5 of them, except for Han Fei, only Xia Xiaochan had the bloodline of a divine descendant. If it weren't for Han Fei, Luo Xiaobai, and the others wouldn't have even come into contact with a divine descendant. Although Chu Hao was also a divine descendant and had helped guard the human race, it couldn't be compared to Han Fei's help to restore the bloodline of the divine descendants. Luo Xiaobai's suggestion, to let some people become gods first, meant giving up on these people. In fact, everyone present knew that if they wanted to resist the Central Sea divine realm, the primordial divine race that only had the god of the Southern Dipper as the high-level combat power, couldn't be compared to the Central Sea divine realm at all. Even if the bandit gods supported the descendants of gods and the other 4 divine realms were willing to cooperate to restrain the Central Sea divine realm, the foundation of this war was actually the clash of gods. At this moment, almost all the gods of the Sea realm were in the Central Sea divine realm. If the descendants of gods didn't make sacrifices, even if they could fight this battle, it would be extremely difficult and even dangerous. Luo Xiaobai said, Senior Yu, how many god-slaying level powerhouses are there in the Central Sea divine realm? Yulinka said, 2 so far, according to the countless pieces of information we gathered. Luo Xiaobai asked, what about gods? Yulinka said, 13. Except for the gods of the heavenly hidden divine race who were killed by Han Fei, there are a total of 13 gods. Luo Xiaobai asked, do you believe it yourself, Senior Yu? Yulinka frowned slightly and didn't speak. Luo Xiaobai changed the topic. Senior Yu, how many gods does the primordial divine race have? Lu Renquang was puzzled. They can't become gods, can they? It should only be the god of the Southern Dipper, right? Luo Xiaobai shook her head. It's true that the divine descendants can't become gods. However, the primordial divine race might not necessarily all be the divine descendants, right? If the divine descendants didn't have trump cards, they wouldn't have let Han Fei clear the rankings at all. They could have just asked him to use the void mark to solve the problem once and for all. Why bother to let Han Fei clear the rankings? Even Han Fei found it a little strange. Yulinka said that Han Fei might need the void mark to protect himself, so she gave Han Fei the choice of the primordial tower. Yulinka said, continue. Luo Xiaobai said, let me try to guess. You didn't ask Han Fei to use the void mark not because you didn't want to owe him a huge favor, but because helping you recover your bloodline has already made you owe him a huge favor. Even if he uses a void mark, it will just be one more favor. Therefore, you hope that Han Fei can clear the rankings and obtain the help of the primordial tower. It seems that you took the initiative to help Han Fei save the void mark, but I guess in fact, you have other thoughts about the void mark, right? Huh? Han Fei frowned slightly. Was there something Yulinka and the others hadn't told him? Yulinka nodded slightly. You're very smart. Yes, your guess is right. I'll tell you all this in the end anyway. But since you've guessed it, I might as well tell you in advance. Yulinka said, there are 6 gods in the primordial divine race. As you said, they don't have the divine bloodline, but disciples we nurtured with care. So far, only one of them has been revealed, which is the master of the Southern Dipper. She was also the earliest to become a god in the South Sea divine realm before the divine descendants were swept by the Central Sea divine realm. In the past 100,000 years, the divine descendants have been doing their best to nurture gods. Unfortunately, it's not easy to do it. In the end, we only nurtured 5. Han Fei said, 100,000 years, 5 gods, it's actually very fast. Yulinka said, more than 100,000 years. The divine descendants can't become gods, so we have been nurturing gods since a long time ago. We also have a group of our own disciples. However, most of these disciples died in battle 100,000 years ago. Now, these 5 are monarchs who survived back then. After 100,000 years, they became gods. Luo Xiaobai frowned slightly. 6 is not enough, is it? If you only have 6 gods, it shouldn't be enough for you to have the confidence to resist the Central Sea Divine Realm. Yulinka said, the top 3 bandits of the West Wilderness will be our allies. Luo Xiaobai looked at Han Fei, and Han Fei nodded slightly. I've seen John Nene's strength. He can indeed fight a god of war, but it doesn't mean that they can fight gods for long, even if they exceed the peak of the extreme. Dao. Yulinka said, the bandit god is on our side. You should know that. Han Fei said, even if there are 9 gods, plus 1 godslayer and the protection of the primordial tower. As he spoke, Yulinka looked at him, and Han Fei laughed. Yes, he had mentioned to Yulinka that there was a god of divine bloodline in the creation divine prison, including him who could be barely taken as a god. There were 11 gods and 1 godslayer. In addition to the restraints of the other 4 divine realms on the Central Sea Divine Realm, in terms of combat power at the god level, it was indeed possible for the divine descendants to be on par with the Central Sea Divine Realm if the Central Sea Divine Realm did only have 13 gods. Yulinka said, Luo Xiaobai is right. If we want to restore the bloodline of the divine descendants, we have to pay a price. I'll discuss this with our clan. Luo Xiaobai asked, why did you ask Han Fei to keep the void mark? Yulinka said leisurely, now that you all know the history of our divine descendants, you should know that our divine descendants have had a bloodline problem since the primordial era. But at that time, our ancestors were still alive and extremely powerful, so no one dared to touch the divine descendants at that time. But our ancestors could do nothing to the creation divine prison, choosing a master, so they had no choice but to leave us an unimaginable treasure inheritance. When someone inherits the creation divine prison and restores our bloodline, we can open the inheritance and return to the peak. Unfortunately, in the Age of Gods, the ominous also attacked us several times, and our ancestors were seriously injured. However, some people coveted the treasure inheritance left behind by our ancestors and plotted against our ancestors and killed them. And the treasure inheritance left behind by our ancestors also fell into the hands of others. Although I don't know whose hands it fell into, I know that it must be in the hands of those forces in the Central Sea Divine Realm. We might not be able to find it, but you, Han Fei, can. The corners of Han Fei's mouth twitched. If this treasure inheritance is really enough for a race to rise, how can the Central Sea Divine Realm let a group of gods guard it? As he spoke, Han Fei's eyes turned green. So, you want to use the strong masters of our void temple to snatch the treasure inheritance back? Han Fei finally understood. If this treasure house was held by a sea-quelling god-level powerhouse, or even a dominator-level powerhouse, with the current divine descendants, it was impossible for them to take it back. Yulinka, half. What? Yulinka said, the divine descendants need to rise, but the human race also needs to rise. There are few divine descendants. Although we don't have many gods, we are generally very strong and have many monarchs. As for your human race, you have very few monarchs, but too many ordinary cultivators. If we can take back this treasure house, the divine descendants are willing to share it with the human race. Han Fei narrowed his eyes slightly. This time, not to mention him, Luo Xiaobai, Zhang Xuanyu, and the others all fell into deep thought. Although they didn't know how much the resources were, it was probably not small. If they could really get half of them, the human race might rise. But then they thought, can't we keep this thing for ourselves? Even Han Fei had the same idea. However, he gave up on it after thinking about it. Swallowing this treasure alone was equivalent to cutting off his relationship with the divine descendants. Han Fei was so proactive in helping the divine descendants mainly because he hoped to have such an ally. Once the divine descendants rose, not only would they be the staunchest ally of the human race, but they would also help the human race rise quickly. Han Fei had even thought that after he joined forces with the divine descendants to take down the Central Sea divine realm, he would put down the position of human emperor. At that time, with the help of the divine descendants, the human race would be safe for generations to come. While Han Fei was deep in thought, Luo Xiaobai came back to herself first. We can't agree to this condition now. With the current strength of the divine descendants, it's still a problem whether you can resist the Central Sea divine realm or not. Besides, Han Fei is the owner of the demon purification pot. This journey will definitely not be peaceful. It's difficult to guarantee that nothing special will happen that requires him to use the void mark. Therefore, if you want to borrow a void mark, we can't agree to it. But we can make a better plan. Han Fei's eyes glittered. That's right. Even without the void mark, I still have the vast ocean navigator. As long as I find the treasure, there will be infinite possibilities for me to snatch it. Han Fei understood Yulinka's thoughts. She wanted to get these resources as soon as the crisis was resolved after the bloodline of the divine descendants was restored so that the divine descendants could make a breakthrough and rise. However, this plan was only best for her. No matter how good the treasure was it more important than his life? The void mark was no longer as simple as a mark. It was a kind of confidence. The Void Temple valued training and growth. They gave the protection of the Void Mark to ensure that their disciples wouldn't die under an irresistible power. However, you couldn't encounter something that you couldn't resist every time. That wouldn't be a problem of trial. That would be courting death. The Void Temple didn't need a brainless disciple who courted death. What they needed was a strong master who could hold his own. And the premise of holding his own was that he had to ensure that he was safe. Only by living could he become a real strong master. Han Fei wasn't afraid of death. In fact, he wouldn't die now, but he had too many things to worry about now. Although he wouldn't die, he didn't want to find that everything was different. When he came back to life, all the people he was familiar with had disappeared. Therefore, he cherished this life very much. Although the temptation of the treasure was indeed great, with it, he would have resources for future breakthroughs and the human race would be more likely to rise. However, relatively speaking, it was still not as precious as his last void mark. Han Fei said, "Let's not talk about the treasure. Let's talk about our next step." Wait. Luo Xiaobai stopped him and said, the next step should be to discuss why the Central Sea Divine Realm still dares to attack you, since they should have guessed that you have another void mark. What makes them so confident? What can they do to make your void mark useless? Chu Hao said, Xiaobai, I know you're smart. Have you already guessed something? Don't keep me in suspense. Just say it. Zhang Xuanyu also said, yes, tell us. Luo Xiaobai's expression became slightly solemn. The most direct possibility is that the other party has a dominator-level powerhouse who can resist the Void Temple. However, Senior Yu said that it's impossible for there to be a dominator in the Sea Realm. Then, there are only two possibilities left. Which two? Everyone looked at Luo Xiaobai curiously. Xia Xiaochan blinked. God knew how Luo Xiaobai came up with so many clues from these details. She couldn't think of it at all. The others probably felt the same. Han Fei frowned slightly. Luo Xiaobai's words gave him a bad feeling. Luo Xiaobai took a deep look at Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan. The human race and are Han Fei's weaknesses. F***ck. Han Fei and Xia Xiaochan's faces both changed drastically. Although the human race and were both protected, if the Central Sea Divine Realm was determined to take down the human race or first, it was completely possible as long as their god-slaying level powerhouse took action. At that time, they would probably force Han Fei to use the void mark. And they had hostages in their hands. Even if Han Fei used the void mark, he could only hold back. Luo Xiaobai continued, don't panic. For the time being, the human race and are safe. Han Fei asked, why do you say that? Luo Xiaobai said, if the Central Sea Divine Realm really wanted to come to this point, they could have taken action long ago. There was no need to wait until now. After all, the Creation Divine Prison is with you. As long as they force you to hand over the sealed divine bloodline, the divine descendants will be crippled. But they didn't do that. Why? Han Fei frowned, but he quickly calmed down. If they are not afraid of the void mark, then there is only one answer. They hope that the divine descendants can restore their bloodline. That's right. Luo Xiaobai said firmly, the reason why they haven't attacked or the human race now is that they don't want to fight your void temple in advance. Just because they don't want to doesn't mean they don't dare. Wait. You're confusing me. The Central Sea Divine Realm wants the divine descendants to recover our bloodline? Chu Hao was surprised. Was the Central Sea Divine Realm crazy? Luo Xiaobai said, if Senior Yu hadn't mentioned the treasure inheritance before, I wouldn't have understood. But now, the answer should be more obvious. The Central Sea Divine Realm has two purposes. One is to open the treasure of the divine descendants. Yulinka asked, what's the second? Luo Xiaobai said, even if the Central Sea Divine Realm allows the bloodline of the divine descendants to recover, they won't give you a chance to return to your former peak. Instead, for the divine descendants who have completely recovered their bloodline, it should be more meaningful for them to snatch the power of your bloodline, right? Xia Xiaochan said, in other words, they won't really attack until the divine descendants' bloodline recovers. Luo Xiaobai nodded. That's right. What I'm more curious about is how to open the treasure of the divine descendants. I'm afraid the Central Sea Divine Realm has already mastered this method, right? Impossible. Yulinka shook her head. There are 3 conditions to open the treasure of a divine descendant. Firstly, the bloodline is complete. Secondly, it requires 1,000 bloodlines of the same origin. The bloodline we inherited comes from different gods. 1,000 bloodlines means 1,000 bloodlines of different origins. Han Fei said, but 100,000 years ago, the divine descendants were swept away. And many died. This is probably not a problem for the Central Sea divine realm. Therefore, there's a third condition, the God returning token. There are 8 of them. They were originally in the hands of the 8 elders of the divine descendants. Although 3 of them were lost in the battle 100,000 years ago, there are still 5 on our side. For example, I have one with me. Han Fei asked, can it be replicated? I mean reproduce it. Yulinka shook her head. No. This is transformed from the flesh and blood of our ancestor in the past who died in the ominous battle. Therefore, the God returning token can't be reproduced. Luo Xiaobai said, if there's a possibility of reproduction, it means that you're in a more dangerous situation. Since the Central Sea divine realm dares to let your bloodline revive, they must be fully prepared. In other words, they are absolutely confident that they can destroy the divine descendants. Their confidence comes from strength, which shows that they have greater strength than we know. Yulinka asked, are you saying that there is a sea-quelling god in the Central Sea divine realm? Luo Xiaobai said, it's hard to say. It's not impossible for the Central Sea divine realm to hide a sea-quelling god. Even if it's not a sea-quelling god, they must have trump cards to deal with the descendants of gods. Then, Luo Xiaobai continued, in fact, the information that the divine descendants can get might not be what they want you to know. And the people from the Central Sea divine realm might have already considered what we can consider, so they are fearless. This is because in the eyes of the strong masters of the Central Sea divine realm, even if the divine descendants recover their bloodline, they will definitely lose. However, there is a variable. Luo Xiaobai looked at Han Fei. Your existence is a variable. You've broken the record of the primordial tower, and you have a void mark. They have to control you first to ensure that nothing goes wrong. Therefore, I think you need to break the power that can keep you in check first. Only in this way can you really break the situation. What you should do now is not to recover the bloodline of the divine descendants. Luo Xiaobai's analysis was logical and indeed made sense. If the Central Sea divine realm really had the confidence to force Han Fei to use the void mark on the human race, or if there was really a sea-quelling god level powerhouse in the Central Sea divine realm, once a war started in the West wilderness, they would definitely lose. As for whether Luo Xiaobai's analysis was accurate or not, it was simple to check. Han Fei took out the vast ocean navigator on the spot, and a map of the East Sea divine realm appeared around him. Han Fei asked, point out the exact location of the god-slaying level powerhouses from the Central Sea divine realm in the East Sea divine realm. He asked this because it was impossible for a god-level powerhouse to deal with or the human race under the watch of Li Tiangan, Xia Wuquan, and the hidden monarch city. Then, if the Central Sea divine realm wanted to use or the human race to threaten Han Fei or even make him waste a void mark, they could only mobilize god-slaying level powerhouses. Immediately, everyone looked at the vast ocean navigator, and Xia Xiachan's breathing quickened. The vast ocean navigator turned and pointed at a place less than half a light year away from the East Sword Pavilion. Buzz. Han Fei's blood was surging, and his face was extremely ugly. Lu Renkuang asked, "Are these people from the Central Sea Divine Realm already so despicable and shameless?" Zhang Xuanyu also cursed, "Shameless. A god-slaying level powerhouse wants to attack a child?" Xia Xiaochan's eyes were cold. "Damn it, which force is this god-slaying level power from?" Yu Linka said, "Don't panic yet. Since Xiaobai has foreseen this, it means that we have the upper hand now. I'm afraid those people from the Central Sea Divine Realm don't know that we have already guessed their plan." Chu Hao said, "Indeed. The problem now is what to do with this god-slaying level powerhouse? Can we kill him without relying on the Void Temple?" Han Fei's pupils were constricted, and he pondered for a long time. "Yes." Chu Hao asked, "How?" "I know you killed a god-slaying level ominous creature. But a god-slaying level ominous creature and a god-slaying level powerhouse of the myriad races are probably two different concepts." Luo Xiaobai also said, "I have to remind you that since the Central Sea Divine Realm has already set up an ambush in the East Sea Divine Realm to take E down to coerce you, it means that they already have the means to deal with the Void Temple. Otherwise, they would never dare to be so unscrupulous. As for what trump cards they have, I really can't guess. However, I suggest quietly bringing E and the human race into your origin star first. Then, you can choose to fight or retreat freely. At least, it can ensure that you don't have any weaknesses." After a moment of silence, Han Fei slowly said, "In the end, all complicated things will go to who is strong and who is weak. Since the Central Sea Divine Realm has begun to use unscrupulous means, I can do it too. Girl, do you want to see your daughter?" Xia Xiaochan trembled slightly. "Of course." Zhang Xuanyu said, "And us?" Han Fei shook his head. "There's no need for too many people to go back. Xiaobai is right. I can't have any weaknesses. From today on, our war against the Central Sea Divine Realm has already begun. This battle will last until all the strong masters of the Central Sea Divine Realm die."